Okay, so good afternoon, guys. It's been a while, ano, na I've been, I went live, so I miss you guys. So for this afternoon, ang discussion natin would be on standard cost and variance analysis. So let me present to you first. Present ko lang yung slides ko. Okay, so nasa na yan? Nasa na yan? Yun. Okay, so kunin natin saglit si highlighter natin. Para dire-diretso na. Okay, so guys, good afternoon. So for this evening, afternoon until evening kasi alas 7 tayo, no? Pasado alas 7 pa tayo. So I will discuss to you the standard cost and variance analysis as a component of management advisory services. So ito siya. So anyway, for the discussion for this afternoon, ang titignan natin is we will go over the mag-overview muna tayo. Tapos after the overview, ang next na titingnan natin are the factors that will give rise to a variance. And then after the factors that will give rise to a variance, isa-isay na natin sila, yung materials, labor, as well as the overhead variances na. Okay? So guys, in terms of the dito sa overview, it's more or less on the theoretical backgrounds, mga theories related to variance analysis. Also for this afternoon until this evening, I really wish that will be interactive. So tayo nito, marami akong mga problems na prepare, may mga practice problems na prepare. So I hope you will be interactive. So I'm monitoring you doon sa FB live natin. So there are questions, parang pabilisan to guys ha, pabilisan to. Mamaya pag pumunta tayo sa mga practice problems natin. Okay, so anyway, let me start first with the basics of variance analysis. So, what is variance analysis? Ano nga ba ang variance analysis? So, by definition, a variance analysis is simply, guys, bottom line, ang root word lang ng variance is vary. So, what is meant by vary? Vary means it's a difference. There's a difference between at least two. So, ano yung dalawang yon? So, there's a difference between the actual and the standard. Pwede siyang difference ng actual against the budget. So anything na nagkaroon ng deviation will become the variance. So in terms of accounting, in terms of the meaning of variance sa atin, it's simply what? That's simply the difference between the actual results or compared to a budget or the standard amounts. However, for this discussion, ang concentration natin is the deviation between the actual against the standards. Kadalasan kasi ganito, pag ang pinag-uusapan natin ay production cost variances, it is always a comparison between the actual versus the standard. Pero when you're dealing with revenues, pag nag-revenue variance na tayo, kadalasan, we are now dealing with the difference between the actual versus the budgets na. So, ibang kwento rin ang revenue variances. We will not discuss revenue variances today. We will stick muna with the production of the standard cost variances. And related to this is, what are the concepts? Ano? So bakit nga ba may variance analysis? What is the logic behind? What are the concepts behind what we're discussing today? So we have, first and foremost, it is the very concept that supports variance analysis. We have management by exception. Okay, so ano naman to management by exception na to? Okay, so when you say management by exception, we only analyze significant variances. Bakit? Okay, ang rason doon is dahil when it comes to variance analysis, it entails cost. Magasto rin eh. Okay, it's also expensive. So since it's also expensive, it simply means na kailangan din natin siyang mag-cost benefit analysis. And yun ang pinaka-concept ng management by exception. Management by exception simply states that we only analyze significant variances lang. Okay, so only significant variances must be analyzed. Okay? So wait ha. Ayan. So let me counter check yun. Okay. So anyway, significant, when you say significance, who decides what is significant and what is not significant? So ang nagde-decide nun ay it's decided by top level management. Okay, so wait, ano? Bakit ito naghang? Ayan. So, wait let me see. Let me check saglit. Ayun, nasan na? Ayan, nasan na? Okay. Let me see. Chat. Ayan. So, ayan. So anyway, oo nga, no, okay. So, Kim, ayan, nawala, naghang yata dun sa may live. Ano nangyari dun? Ayan. So, ayun. Okay. So, let me see. Ano, bakit ganito? Oo nga, naghang. Hindi, okay na. Okay, I think we're good. Let me see. Okay, let me see first. Baka nagdi-discuss ako tapos. Let me see. Mhm. Bago natin ituloy. Wala dito. Okay. So, wait Let me see. Nangyari. Okay. So, anyway, let me check. Okay, guys, wait saglit. Let me just check. Just to be sure. Okay. So, nawala. Anyway, sige. So, I think we're good. Let me see. Let me see first. Nangyari. No. Mhm. Happened na. Tawagan ko nga. Nangyari. Okay. Ayan. So guys, wait we have technical difficulties. Anyway, sige. So sige, tuloy na lang natin. No. Did not answer. Okay. Let me see first. No, bakit kon? Nawala tayo. Hmm. Let me see. Ayun. Are we on? Oh, it happened. Nangyari. Wala. Okay. So anyway, sige. Tuloy na lang natin. I'm not sure, ano, guys. I'm not sure if we're streaming live. So I cannot monitor, no? So I cannot monitor yung I cannot monitor yung discussions natin. So parang naghang yata. Okay, so you can watch me pala. Okay, so well, again, guys, thank you. Thank you for the feedback. So akala ko nawala tayo. Okay, so anyway, let's continue. So okay, tuloy na natin. So theoretical concepts tayo. So let's proceed with the theoretical concepts. We have the management by exception as being stated earlier. So pag sinabi nating management by exception, what happens is you only analyze significant differences because variance analysis will also entail cost. Kaya yon. And the reason kung bakit nagva-variance analysis tayo is because it is intended for what? It is intended to measure effectiveness and efficiency. So guys, take note, variance analysis is that's part of the performance evaluation function of management. So that's part of the control function of management. So when you say control function of management, it simply means that we're trying to what? We're trying to determine if the goals and objectives of the company were attained. So pag attainment of goals, it is a measurement of effectiveness. If it is proper utilization of the company's resources, it is more of efficiency naman. Okay, it's more of efficiency. So yun ang effectiveness and efficiency of variance analysis. So related to this is feedback of our planning and console. So guys, babalik ulit to sa functions ng management. So sa functions ng management, meron tayong feedback as well as under feedback. Under feedback is we gather past data, and then after gathering the past data, we now try to analyze ano yung deviations niya in comparison with what was intended or what was yung ating objectives. So this is a major component of feedback and console, and under feedback and console nandun na si planning and console. Okay? So yun siya. So anyway, let's continue. Dito tayo sa may, sige, yan. So bumalik. Okay, so dito. Guys, this is a very important concept. Dapat maintindihan natin to. That's the difference between absorption and variable costing in relation to variance analysis. So dapat maintindihan natin to. Ang question dito is, may variances ba under the two methods that is usually recognized as costing methods in managerial accounting, under variable and absorption costing, alin dito ang may variances? Ang sagot doon, guys, it is only what? It is only, ay guide question muna tayo. Pagdating sa guide question, are variances recorded in the books? Nire-record ba sa libro ang mga variances? May journal entries ba ang mga variances natin? Meron ba? Okay? Guys, ang sagot doon, ang variances natin are also recorded in the books. Nire-record natin yan. It is recorded at the point of, depende sa point yon, no? So depende sa pag-purchase ng raw materials, nagre-record ka na ng variances. Pagdating na issuance of raw materials, nagre-record ulit tayo ng mga variances. Tapos sa labor, guys, pag yung in-apply natin ang work in process, yung labor sa work in process, again, magre-recognize ka ulit ng variances na naman. So sa absorption costing, guys, meron tayong journal entries. In fact, yun ang titingnan natin mamaya. Yun ang pinaka-origin ng mga formula ng mga variances natin. And then, since may journal entries ang mga variances, nire-record natin yon under absorption costing. Absorption costing is a tool that is used in cost accounting. However, ang variable costing, may journal entries ba ang variable costing? Guys, ang sagot doon, walang journal entries ang variable costing. Okay, so there are no journal entries for variable costing. Since walang journal entries ang variable costing, we do not recognize variances under variable costing. Guys, I have to be very clear in that area. Okay? Although ang mga variances natin are analyzed based on behavior, okay, it's analyzed based on behavior, ang mga may variances is only under absorption costing lang. Kaya kadalasan pag tinanong kayo, kailan clean na close ang mga variances? Ang mga variances are closed in the cost of goods sold. Tama? So alin sa dalawa ang may cost of goods sold? Only absorption costing lang. Okay, so guys, I've seen questions before. I've seen questions before on this area. So I think, I'm not sure kung nailagay ko yung MC question na yon, pero yun yung tinatanong niya. May variance daw siya. Tapos, saan mo siya i-recognize? Absorption costing ba or variable costing? So guys, ang sagot doon, absorption lang. Ang variable, wala siyang variance analysis. Tandaan yun, that's a very important concept. Okay, next, what are the causes of variances? Guys, very easy to. So kadalasan, pag nag-compute tayo ng actual cost, it is as simple as actual unit cost multiplied with the actual quantity. Ganun kadali yun, ano? So in relation to that naman, meron din tayong standard. So pag standard naman, it is the standard price or standard cost multiplied with the standard quantity. Guys, yung dalawang yon ang major causes ng variances natin. And for you to understand yung major cause ng variances natin, babalikan natin yung mga basics ninyo. Okay? So we go back to cost accounting. So guys, lahat tong i-discuss ko sa inyo are all interrelated. Makikita mo na yung buong kwento ng standards as well as the variances and the four cost systems and how they are related to each other. So kumbaga, bird's eye view analysis na to. So we have to go back doon sa four cost systems natin. So ano nga ba yung apat na cost systems natin? First and foremost, you have the actual cost system. Under actual cost system, it is quite obvious. Under actual, it is actual price at actual quantity. Ito naman is actual hours for the labor, actual rate times, actual hours, and for the overhead, naka-actual lahat yan. Obviously, walang variances ang actual costing. So kadalasan, may nakita na akong lumabas sa exam dati. Okay, may nakita na ako. Nakalagay doon, the company uses actual cost system. And then it is now asking what is the variance? What's the volume variance? Guys, if the question is actual cost system, walang variances ang actual cost system. Because automatic, it's already recorded at actual cost na siya. Okay? So actual. In contrast, the second is known as the normal cost system. Etong normal cost system na to was introduced to you way back in cost accounting. So mga inintroduce sa inyo ng applied overhead, di ba? Na nag-aaral ka pa ng paano i-allocate sa overhead, problema mo pa siya, doon umasok si normal costing. Under normal costing, ang pinagkaiba lang dyan guys, in comparison sa actual is yung overhead niya. So for the overhead, it is based on what? It's based on standard rate, but it is based on actual hours. Ayun. So yun ang major difference ng actual versus normal. Kaya way back in cost accounting, ano unang tinuro sa'yo ng teacher mo? Unang tinuro sa'yo ng teacher mo is compute for the over, under, applied overhead. Sabi niya, di ba? Ayan, so I hope natatandaan mo pa ang pag-compute ng over at saka under, applied overhead. Same concept din siya. It's simply actual minus applied. Ang tawag natin dito guys, we just call it as the applied overhead. Yun lang ang tawag natin doon. Okay? So ganun lang siya. Yun lang yung pinagkaiba ng dalawang to. Now, from the normal, we decided na dagdagan pa ng isa. Meron tayong tinatawag na extended normal. So I hope you know your extended normal. How come it is known as extended normal? It's known as extended normal because hindi na lang si overhead ang naka-standard rate. Kasama na ngayon si materials at saka si labor. Naka-standard price na yan, saka naka-standard rate. But it is still based on what? Still based on actual. Naka-actual quantity siya, actual hours, ganun din, naka-actual hours pa rin. Simply stated, what is extended normal of cost accounting? In cost accounting, they call it as extended normal. In managerial accounting, ano tawag natin dyan? You call it as the flexible budget. Okay? Flexible budget lang yun. And guys, pagdating sa performance evaluation, kadalasan, anong preferred budget na ginagamit natin? Ang preferred budget na ginagamit natin ay it's the flexible budget. Pagdating sa performance evaluation, di-discuss ko mamaya yan. Okay, di-discuss ko ano difference ng static versus flexible, kailan prepare si static, kailan ginagawa si flexible budget. So yan, pag-uusapan din natin. Then eventually, nagkaroon na tayo ng standard costing. Okay, so from the standard costing, if you notice, lahat yan, in terms of the price, in terms of the quantity, rate or hours, lahat yan naka-standard na. So pag naka-standard na lang to, it becomes the static budget. Okay, so static budget na siya. Yon. So yan ang difference, ano? Yan ang difference ng mga cost systems natin. And obviously, all of this, except actual cost system, except ito, lahat yan may mga variances na to. So yun siya. Initially, pag ang inanalyze natin, so balik natin saglit, okay, pag inanalyze natin is the difference between a flexible budget versus a static budget. Guys, this is better known as a static budget. So sa cost accounting, they just call it a standard cost system lang. In managerial, we call it as the static budget. So the difference between the two kadalasan is the deviation between, obvious to, di ba? It's obvious. That's between actual versus standard. Pagdating na sa budget, ang tawag na natin doon, it becomes the volume variance. Okay? So again, titignan din natin siya further. Static versus flexible budget variances. But before anything else, okay, overview muna tayo ulit. Kasi nga, I'm laying down the foundations. Lay down tayo ng foundations. So ganito yan. Doon sa may budgeting natin, at the start of the period, pag nagsimula na yung, before the start of the period, a budget is prepared. Gumagawa na tayo in preparation for next year's operations. Yung budget na ginagawa natin is known as a static budget. So, static muna. Okay? So, you prepare first a static budget before the start of actual operations. And then, ang kasunod na doon is actual operations na. Then, after actual operations, kasunod is performance evaluation. Now, pag nag-performance evaluation tayo, anong budget ang ina-analyze natin? It is actual is being compared against what? Okay? It is actual compared against, it is against a budget. Anong type of budget? For us to have a better insight on the analysis of our budgets or of the variances, it is now better for you to convert the static budget, i-convert mo yan into a flexible budget. Bottom line, guys, is ang static budget is prepared before the start of operations. Ang flexible budget is prepared after the end of operations. It is intended for performance evaluation. Yun ang gamit ni flexible budget. A flexible budget is the budget that is adjusted to actual levels of operations. Ang question doon is, paano mo malalaman si actual, di ba? Malalaman mo lang si actual pag natapos na ang actual operations mo. And the reason kung bakit bakit nagpre-prepare tayo ng flexible budget is, yun ang kino-compare natin sa actual operations mo. Simply stated, flexible budget will properly facilitate the analysis and interpretation of variances. Yun ang purpose natin doon. So guys, wag niyong kakalimutan yun. Okay, hindi basta-basta na trip natin gawa ng flexible budget, no, may purpose yan. So the difference between actual and result, okay, is now what? Static or the flexible. Better insights are gained when using flexible budgets. I think we're done with that. And the difference, guys, eto na, no? Both standard costing as well as revenue variances. Meron silang volume variance. So eto siya, the difference between a flexible budget and a static budget is the volume variance. So later on sa overhead natin, di ba meron tayong volume variance ng overhead? Tapos meron din tayong revenue volume variance. So anyway, for today, stick muna tayo sa standard cost or sa may overhead variance muna tayo. Okay, next. What is the difference between favorable versus unfavorable? Guys, common sense lang to. Okay, common sense lang yan. Bottom line is, ang objective natin is to increase net income. So lahat naman, di ba? Lahat na strategies na ginagawa natin, whether it's qualitative or quantitative strategies, it is always intended to increase net income to improve profitability of the company. Hindi exempted si variance analysis. The reason kung bakit nagva-variance analysis tayo is to attain production efficiency. If there is production efficiency, it must improve profitability of the company. Yun ang pinaka-purpose nun. Now, what is the difference between favorable and unfavorable? Okay, common sense guys. If net income will increase, it should be favorable. If net income decreased, it is unfavorable. So simply stated, ganito lang yan. If you're dealing with cost variances, if actual cost is greater than the standard cost, logic, okay, napagasto ka, di ba? Since napagasto ka, what will happen to net income? Net income will decrease. It should be unfavorable. On the other hand, okay, on the other hand, if the actual cost naman is now less than the standard, if actual cost is less than the standard, is lang ibig sabihin nun, nakatipid tayo. So pag nakatipid tayo, what will happen to net income? Net income will increase. If net income will increase, what it simply means it is favorable. Yun ang difference nun. Kaya guys, be careful ha, be careful. Kasi pagdating na sa revenue variances, hindi maiwasan na kailangan kong i-contrast yung dalawang yun. Okay, yung standard cost as well as the revenue. Kasi kailangan natin siyang maintindihan kasi may difference yung dalawa. Kahit dun man sa basics na maipresent ko sa inyo araw na to, at least kahit pa paano alam mo agad yung difference ng cost variance against the revenue variance. Guys, kadalasan sa revenue variance baliktad. Pag sa revenue variance, if actual is greater than the standard revenue or the budgeted revenue, that should be favorable. Okay? On the other hand, if actual revenue is lower, it's lower than the budget or the standard revenue, it should be unfavorable. Bakit natin ini-emphasize yan? Kasi kadalasan kung minsan, we tend to memorize. Kadalasan ganito ginagawa ng estudyante, basta nag-positive. Basta nag-positive, unfavorable yan. Pag nag-negative, it is favorable. Okay? That is only true sa standard cost variances. Pag nag-positive kasi, actual is greater. Tama? Pag nag-negative, actual is less. Pagdating sa standard cost. Pero ingat tayo. Kasi pagdating sa revenue, baliktad yan. Pagdating sa revenue, if actual is greater, positive yon. That's favorable. And vice versa. Okay, so guys, ganun lang yan ha. Please be careful. Huwag kayong mag-memorize. Do not memorize. Always analyze what you are computing. So, eto lang yung tinitingnan natin. Pinaka-basis natin, whether it is favorable or unfavorable, is the bottom line effect on the net income or in the income statement. So, eto siya. So, if you're dealing with cost variances, na-emphasize ko na to kanina. If you're dealing with revenues, na-emphasize ko na rin to kanina. Now, isa pa, bago natin iwan ang difference ng favorable at saka unfavorable variances. Ito na naman. Di ba nabanggit ko sa inyo kanina? Ang mga variances natin are recorded in the books. Since ni-record natin sa libre yan, saan mo, if it is favorable, saan siya nakalagay? Nakalagay ba sa debit side or nakalagay ba sa credit side? Okay guys, ganito lang yan. Again, back to basic. Pag complex question, always use basic approaches. Ang variances natin, klino-close yan sa cost of goods sold. By nature, cost of goods sold is a debit item. Okay, nasa debit item yan. Kung saan mo ilalagay yung variance mo, pagdating sa closing entry, doon mo rin ipapalit si cost of goods sold. Ibig sabihin nun, if your variance is unfavorable, ilalagay mo si variance sa debit side. Okay, ilalagay mo siya sa debit side. Because pagdating sa closing entries, the cost of goods sold will be debited. If cost of goods sold will be debited, what is the effect? Cost of goods sold will increase. If cost of goods sold will increase, what will happen to gross profit and net income respectively? Gross profit and net income respectively will decrease. Kaya it is unfavorable, nakalagay sa debit side. In contrast, vice versa. If it is favorable naman, di ba? Pag favorable, pag ni-recognize mo na si variance, saan natin siya ilalagay? Ilalagay mo siya sa credit side. Okay, credit side. Why? Again, logic ulit yon. Kasi pagdating sa closing entries, the cost of goods sold will be credited. Pagka-credit mo ay cost of goods sold, what will happen to cost of goods sold? It will decrease. If CGS will decrease, what will happen to gross profit and net income respectively? It will increase. It should be favorable. Okay, so guys, ganun lang yan ha. Ganun lang ang favorable versus unfavorable in relation to the journal entries. Okay, next, guys. Okay. Analysis of variances. So, ang question lang dito is, ina-analyze ba natin lahat na variances? Di ba, meron tayong materials, meron tayong labor, meron din tayong overhead variances. Ina-analyze ba natin yung mga yon? Ang sagot doon, guys, is almost all except one. Okay? Ano kaya yung exception to the rule na yon? So, nandito siya, no? Pero eto muna. Bago ko bigay yung sagot, Production variances are analyzed to determine corrective actions and to improve operational efficiency. Yan ang reason kung bakit tayo nagva-variance analysis. We want to improve future operations. It is not intended to punish our employees. It is not a fault-finding process. It is a what? It is a constructive process. Na yung empleyado natin, gagandahan pa niya yung performance niya. Bibigyan natin ng payo kung paano pa niya aayusin yung kanyang trabaho. Yun ang purpose natin doon. Okay? It is not intended to punish them or to give them a demerit. Hindi ganun, guys. Pang-improvement lahat to. Kaya tayo nagva-variance analysis. So, eto na yun sagot. Halos lahat ng mga variances natin ina-analyze except one variance. Ang sagot doon, guys, is the overhead volume variance. Okay? Bakit nga ba hindi ina-analyze ang overhead volume variance? The answer is it is beyond the control of anybody. Why? Okay, bakit nga ba? Ganito yun. Ang volume variance, medyo nag-advance na ako ng discussion. Ang volume variance is a deviation between, it is a deviation from production capacity against the standard allowed on what was actually attained. Hindi natin pwedeng nagkakaroon yan ng unfavorable variance pag hindi natin na-maximize yung production capacity ng company. Hindi mo naman pwedeng sabihin sa mga customers mo na guys, sige na, bili naman kayo ng product namin kasi hindi pa namin na-maximize or na 100% yung production capacity. Yung production natin is highly dependent on the sales units. The sales units is highly dependent on the actions of our competitors. So ang production variance cannot be controlled. Okay? Kaya ito pag natatandaan nyo, di ba, sa two-way analysis ng variances, sa two-way analysis ng variances, meron tayong controllable at saka volume. Lumabas dati ito sa board exam. Compute for the non-controllable variance, sabi niya. What is non-controllable variance? It is referring to the volume variance. Two reasons yon. Yung isa nabanggit ko na because it is beyond the control of anybody. Ano? So wala eh. No? So depende yan sa sales units. Meron pa. The second reason is it is purely composed of fixed cost. And kadalasan pagdating na sa concepts ng performance evaluation, pagdating sa fixed cost, it is beyond your control. So hindi na siya ina-analyze. Okay? However, baka sabihin mo, sir, pero di ba dapat may mananagot pa rin? Di ba meron pa rin dapat? Okay? So ang sagot doon, guys, meron. Meron pa rin yan. But it is no longer the production volume variance ang ina-analyze natin. Related to the production volume variance is the sales volume variance. What is sales volume variance? Sales volume variance is a deviation from budgeted sales against actual sales units. And who is responsible for that? That is the responsibility of the marketing department. Simply stated, yung volume variance na yan is only analyzed doon lang sa revenue variances but not under production cost variances. Okay, so guys, that's a very important concept. Para pag tinanong or pagdating na sa problem solving, parang noon, tinanong sa kanila, compute for the non-controllable, tapos paglabas na ng estudyante, tinanong na sa akin, sir, ano daw yung non-controllable variance? Naku, patay na. Okay? Nakalimutan niya yata na under two-way analysis, meron tayong controllable and the volume. Simply stated, the volume, also known as the capacity variance, is non-controllable. Okay. When analyzing variances, understand the causes of the variances before using it as a performance measure. Okay, guys, that's true. Simply stated, you set the standards, you set the objectives. After setting the standard and the objective, analyze the reason kung bakit hindi na-attain yung objective na yun. Analyze the reason kung bakit sumobra yung attainment ng objective na yun. And then at that point, pwede na natin siya gamitin for performance evaluation. Kadalasan, pagdating sa performance evaluation, we reward good performers. Di ba kung minsan meron tayo sa, sa employee of the month. O, mga ganon, guys, that's a motivation. Simple variance analysis leading to motivation will actually significantly have the output of your employees. Gaganahan sila lalo. Avoid excessive emphasis on single performance measure. Guys, let me simplify this for you. Bigyan kita ng example para mas mabilis. pag nag-analyze tayo ng variances, tinitignan mo yung overall effect niya. Example, usual example to, sa materials variance. Yung materials variance natin is favorable. Materials price variance is favorable. Pero pagdating na sa materials quantity, biglang unfavorable na siya. What went wrong? Okay? So guys, logic lang yan. If the price variance is favorable, it simply means nakatipid tayo, no? Tipid. Okay. Mura yung nabili natin na raw materials. Pero pagdating na sa efficiency, it is what? It is already unfavorable. What went wrong? Yung nabili mo na raw materials mo is below standard. If it is below standard, what will happen? Affected see? Ito na yung overall effect, guys. Because you purchased a substandard raw material, the materials price variance is favorable. Materials quantity variance is unfavorable. If materials quantity variance is unfavorable, since below standard yung raw materials mo, it will result to defective goods and spoiled goods. Pag nagkaroon tayo ng defective goods and spoiled goods, it will require rework. Aside from rework, you have to produce additional units to compensate the spoiled goods. It will consume additional labor hours, and labor hours sumasabay na rin sa overhead. Simply stated, affected na rin si labor variances mo. Labor efficiency will become unfavorable. Variable overhead efficiency will also become unfavorable na because of a substandard raw material. That's how you analyze. Tinitignan mo yung overall effect niya. Then eventually, what do we do? What is the bottom line effect on the net income? Then after which, what do we do? Corrective action ka na. Pag sasabihan mo na si purchasing manager, sasabihin mo na si production manager. Dapat i-purchase nila ng raw material is at least within the standards or above the standards. So be careful. Okay, be careful when analyzing variances. Do not emphasize on a single variance. Tignan mo yung relationship niya. Tignan mo yung overall effect niya sa operations ng company. Okay. Next, letter E. Ano naman yung treatment ng variances natin? Ang variances natin are close to what? They're close to, depende yan guys. It depends whether it is significant or insignificant. If it is significant, okay, if it is significant, it is what? Insignificant. Mababa, no? It is close to the cost of goods sold. So CGS lang to. Pero pag significant naman siya, or malaki yung variance natin, it is now close to the 3 accounts. So ano yung tatlong accounts na yun? That's work in process balance and the cost of goods sold as well as the finished goods. Okay? Ang question na naman dito is, who decides? Yun ang magandang tanong doon, di ba? Who decides whether it is significant or insignificant? Ang sagot doon, guys, is it's a matter of company policy. Tandaan nyo, we are not governed by any accounting standard. So tayo, puro internal decisions tayo. It's a matter of company policy. Yung mga ibang companies, ang sineset nila is a percentage of a total cost. Example, if the total cost will exceed 5%, let's say, of the total manufacturing cost, it is already considered as significant. Adjust mo na yan sa tatlo. Okay? Pag nag-less than 5% naman siya, company policy lang yon, insignificant, close to CGS lang yon. Depende yan sa policy ng company. However, if you plan to take the CMA exams, okay, so malay ko, no? Malay ko, some of you are also planning to take the CMA. Kadalasan sa CMA problems, bibigyan ka kaagad doon. May clue ka agad doon. Sasabihin niya, a variance that is beyond this percentage is considered significant. Tapos itatanong sa inyo cost of goods sold after closing entries. Doon mo na may apply yung concept mo na significant ba or insignificant. I'm not, pagdating sa CPA board exam, hindi pa naman ako nakita ng question na gano'n na levels of significance, wala pa naman. Level of significance aside from percentage of a, let's say, of a benchmark can also be a certain amount. Example, certain amount. Ito, sa mining industry tayo guys. Mining industry, 2 million. What is 2 million for them? 2 million for them is insignificant. Guys, 2 million na yon. Okay? Parang nanalo ka na ng wawawin ng 2 beses. Ayan. Pero pagdating sa mining industry, insignificant lang yon. Imagine 2 million na yan. How about 5 million? Okay guys, I know of a telecom company. 5 million for them is acceptable variance. Insignificant sa kanila ang 5 million. Why? Because ang pera nila billions naman ang kanilang revenues at saka earnings nila. So yun. So depende yan sa policy ng company. So guys, advice pagdating nyo sa actual, mas maganda if ang iset ninyo is based on a certain percentage para mas ano na to, mas consistent tayo. Okay guys, ito na yung mga price and quantity variances natin. So, babalikan natin doon sa babalik tayo sa reasons ng variances. So, price factor. Guys, lahat to puro ang variances natin laging bumabalik sa dalawan to. The price and the physical. For both standard costing as well as for revenue variances, bumabalik doon. Oo nga pala. Ito na naman. Sino palang nagsiset ng standard? Sino? Okay guys, ang setting ng standard natin, again, is a matter of company policy. Kung anong gusto ng company na standards, yun ang masusunod. Kung gusto niyang mag-benchmarking siya sa industry leader, walang problema doon. What is important is, pag nag-set ka ng standard mo, it should be realistic and it should be helpful in attaining the company's goals and objectives, which is what? To become successful in the chosen marketplace. Okay? So, yun ang setting ng standard natin. Theoretically, ano yung mga standards natin? Ang standards natin kadalasan is classified into two. Ano yung dalawang yun? Meron tayong tinatawag na theoretical standards. Meron din tayong tinatawag na practical or the attainable standards. What is a theoretical standard? Also known as ideal standards. Ang theoretical standard, guys, at saka as ideal or theoretical standard is very difficult to attain. We assume 100% production efficiency. 100% efficiency. Yun ang tinatawag na ideal. Guys, ang ideal standards or theoretical standards is useful sa production. Modern production management strategies ngayon. Example, applications of the Six Sigma. Application ng, aside from Six Sigma, process na engineering, NTKM. What is the degree of acceptable error? As much as possible, ang degree of acceptable error mo doon, 0. For every 1 million units produced under Six Sigma, the acceptable degree of error is 0.0000024%. In other words, wala dapat reject. Ganun katindi ang mga modern production management strategies. Simply stated, pagdating sa production, gamitan mo siya na ideal or theoretical standard. However, kailan natin ginagamit ang practical standards naman? Ang practical standards, guys, ginagamit natin yan for properties or assets that are highly volatile. Ano yung mga highly volatile natin? Example is cash. Di ba kasama sa budgeting natin ang cash budget? Nagpo-forecast ka ng disbursement as well as your collections. Pero marami doon ang beyond your control. Simply stated, anong budget ang gagamitin natin? Anong standard ang gagamitin natin pagdating sa cash? Kadalasan ang ginagamit natin doon ay that is the practical or the attainable standard. Yun ang difference ng dalawang standards na yun. Parang ganito lang yan, guys. I-apply natin sa buhay nyo. Okay, may nagtanong sa'yo, di ba? Kadalasan sa high school to high school. What is your ideal man? What is your ideal woman? Di ba? What is your ideal man and ideal man? Tapos nagbigay ka ng description. Guys, yung description na binigay mo is only in your dreams. It does not exist in this world. Okay? It does not exist. Pag nag-exist man siya, 2-3 tao yun. Okay? So it cannot boil down into a single person lang. Kaya sa totoong buhay, pag tinanong ka, what is your ideal man and what is your ideal woman? Lalo na for the ladies. Kung sino yung nanligaw sa'yo, you do the adjustments. Okay? Magiging practical ka na. Magiging attainable ka na. Yun. Yun ang difference ng dalawang standards na yun. Now, balik tayo sa discussion natin. Nalayo na. So, the price factor. Okay, doon tayo sa price factor. Deviation from actual price rate or guys, pag materials, kadalasan ang term na ginagamit natin is price. Pag sa labor naman at saka sa overhead, we use the term rate. Okay? So, ito siya. Known as input price variance or the rate variance. So, kadalasan pag sa materials, you just call it as the materials price. No? Materials price. Ito yun, no? Samples are materials price variance, labor rate variance, overhead spending variance. The term spending variance, by the way, is also known as the budget variance. Budget variance din siya. For those who are using the book of Garrison, ingat kayo guys sa pag ang ginagamit nyo libro ni Garrison. Kasi ang tawag niya sa net variance, he calls is at ang tawag niya net spending variance. Sa lahat ng authors, siya lang naman ang gumamit ng term na net spending variance for the net variance of either materials, labor, overhead. Warning in advance para pag binasa mo yung libro niya, alam mo kung agad kung ano tinutukoy ni Garrison. So yun, be careful guys ha. So this is the price factor. Ang price factor natin, that's the first variance that we analyze. And basta price factor, you always try to analyze a comparison between the actual price and the standard price. Laging yung dalawang yon. Guys, tandaan nyo to. It is only a price variance that uses actual rate or actual cost. Basta nag-quantity variance ka na, wala na or out na sa picture ang actual price or actual cost. Wala na siya doon. Or actual rate man pagdating sa labor or overhead. For the quantity factor naman, so guys, I'm building the concepts pa lang ha. Pag sa quantity factor naman, also known as the physical factor, is a deviation from, pag sa raw materials, deviation yan sa consumption ng raw materials. Okay, pag sa labor naman, it's a deviation from consumption of labor hours. Now, guys, ito importante. Ito, is there such thing as overhead hours? May sariling oras ba ang overhead? Okay, meron ba? Ayan. So anyway, ang sagot doon ay, ano sagot doon? Ang sagot doon guys, wala. There's no such thing as overhead hours. Si overhead is applied together with labor. Simply stated, yung ginagamit natin na labor hours, siya rin ang gagamitin natin na overhead, basis ng overhead hours. Babalik na naman sa basic to. Pag binilikan natin ang basic mo, how do you compute for the overhead application rate? Overhead application rate is simply computed as pag ang cost driver mo is labor hours, it is simply computed as estimated overhead numerator divided by estimated labor hours. Kaya guys, there's no such thing as overhead hours. Ang ginagamit pa rin natin doon ay si labor hours pa rin. Yan. So para later on kasi may related concept doon, si efficiency. Pag si labor efficiency is unfavorable, automatic variable overhead efficiency is also unfavorable kasi pareho lang yung basis natin. Yun siya. So the physical factor known as the usage, pagdating sa materials, quantity, pagdating sa materials or efficiency, pagdating sa labor at saka si overhead. Guys, basta nakita mo yung term na efficiency, automatic yan. It's always a comparison between actual hours against standard hours. In fact, that is how you measure efficiency. Ano? How well did you utilize the input resources is efficiency. Actual hours against standard hours. Now, sa totoong buhay, a company produces its finished goods by utilizing multiple levels of skills. It produces a product with different components or different parts. The quantity variance will now be further subdivided into two. Yung tinatawag natin na mix and the yield variance. Okay? Wala namang product, di ba? Guys, wala namang product, di ba? Bihirang-bihira, I mean. Ang product na ang kanyang raw material, nag-iisa lang. Bihirang-bihira yan. Ano lang example ng ice siguro, di ba? Alam niyo, ice, di ba? Tubig lang ang raw material niya. Pero may plastic din, di ba? May plastic din siya nalalagyan. Pero malamang, yun lang nag-iisa raw materials. All other products, ang kanilang components ng product na yun is multiple components. The combination of the parts, the combination of the materials used, as well as the combination of the labor, skill level na ginamit natin will give rise to the mix variance. So nagkakaroon din ng deviation dito. On the same manner, any deviation coming from the expected output from the input components. Ano yung mga output from input components na yun? Ang tinutukoy doon guys is the input components are the manufacturing components, materials, labor, and overhead. And what is the output component? The output component is the finished goods, eventually becoming your cost of goods sold. So for every 8 hours of work na nagtrabaho ka, ilan dapat ang na-produce mo na finished goods? Is in fact the yield variance yun. Yield variance. For every 1 kilo of our raw material, how much should be the finished goods? Again, is a yield variance na naman. Okay? So that's the mix and the yield variance. Pag further subdivide natin si quantity variance. For today, guys, this is a highly technical discussion itong dalawang to. Hindi ko muna i-discuss to. Okay, in abeyance muna yan. Concentrate muna tayo sa basics natin. Most especially marami sa inyo malamang is pag nasa undergrad tayo, no? Marami sa inyo nagfa-final exams na or magfa-final exam na for the coming week. So if this is one of your subjects, well and good. Okay, I hope it will help you pagdating na sa examinations niyo. So what are the samples? Ano mga sample ng quantity factors natin or the physical factors? Ito na siya, the materials quantity, the labor efficiency, the overhead efficiency. Guys, ang overhead efficiency, automatic variable component yan. Automatic yan. Ang volume variance naman, automatic guys, is the fixed component. There's no need for you to specifically indicate na variable overhead efficiency. Pero kung minsan nilalagay pa rin natin yon para hindi siya confusing. Okay, so hindi na kailangan because as early as now, I have to emphasize this. There is no such thing as fixed overhead efficiency variance. Pag yung libro na nabasa mo, may nakita ka doon fixed overhead efficiency variance. Yung libro na nabasa mo, obsolete na yun. Okay, obsolete na. Tanggalin natin, meron tayong variable cost. Okay, so ito siya. The variable cost. Alam natin yon. They're the variable components. Nag-iisa lang naman ang ating fixed component. Ano lang yung fixed component natin? That's only the fixed overhead lang. So ito lang siya. So pagdating sa fixed component, we have for the price factor, the overhead spending, also known as the budget variance. Okay, budget variance. And also have the physical factor. Pagdating sa fixed, we have the volume variance. And these are the most common. Guys, the reason kung bakit pre-reset ko sa inyo to is pagdating na kasi sa formula natin, ang formula ng mga to, ng mga variable components na to, halos isa lang yung sinusundan natin na computation niya. Ang medyo na iba lang is fixed. Okay, ito lang yung medyo na iba. But guys, there's only one concept na i-apply natin sa buong discussion na to. A variance, always go back to basic, is always actual minus standard. Laging actual minus standard yan. Okay, dito na lang. Ayan. It's always actual minus standard. What happens in between? Nandito na yan, nandito na yan. The only difference is, alam niyo pag sa variable, nandito, see? Nandito si flexible dapat yan. Sorry guys. Nandito si flexible budget. Sa gitna niya, nandito si flexible budget. Ito. This is flexible budget. And that is for what? That's for variable. Actual against the flexible budget is automatically the price variance. Flexible budget minus the standard is automatically the physical factor. Guys, yun na yun. Yun lang yun. Yun lang ang variable component ng variances. Wala nang iba. Okay? Whether materials, labor, or overhead, yun lang yung pinaka-concept mo. Wala na iba. It's always actual minus standard. In between, para maging variable siya, is the flexible budget. Yan ang reason kung bakit inintroduce ko sa inyo kanina yung 4 na cost components. Kasi babalikan ka na niya ngayon. Okay? How about say fixed? Isang fixed, ito. Instead ng flexible budget, ang nasa gitna lang nito ay si static budget. Nandyan siya. The difference between actual fixed and the static budget is in fact the overhead spending variance. The difference between the static budget and the standard overhead, fixed overhead, is the volume variance. Yun na rin yung concept natin ngayong hapon na to. Gabi na pala, alas 6 na, eksakto na, no? Doon lang nag-revolve ang concept ng variances. Terminology lang ang pinapalit-palitan dyan. Terminologies lang. In fact, napakadali lang ang variances. Mahirap kumuha ng isa-substitute mo sa equations mo. Yon. So, tayo nito, yun na yung mga challenging questions. Plus constructive problems. Para yung basics natin, pareho lang siya. And this is the general equation. Linesan ko na earlier, no? So price variance, ito na kanina, the price factors and the quantity factors. I think we can already move on with this. Presented in a diagram lang yan. Guys, ito na yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina. General model for variance analysis. This is usually used for what? This is used for the variable component to, guys. Okay? May sariling mundo si fixed overhead kasi. Pero pag naintindihan mo tong variable component, halos 75% ng discussion natin tapos na. Diba? Guys, eto yun, no? Di ba ito sinabi ko sa kanina? That is actual. Yan yung actual cost na materials, actual labor rate, actual na variable overhead. So ito sila. Actual quantity at actual price. But ang pinagkaiba lang ng materials, labor at saka si variable overhead ay nandito. Guys, nandito. Pagdating sa materials at saka si labor, meron siyang sariling actual quantity at actual price. Pero pagdating kay actual variable overhead, mawawala tong equation na to. Because what is overhead? Ang overhead kasi is composed of multiple cost elements. Meron siyang indirect materials, indirect labor, and everything. Tama? Mga indirect components lahat yun. Simply stated, pagdating sa variable overhead, ang makikita mo doon is a single total amount. Okay, single amount lang. Kasi nga halo-halong cost elements yon. Doon na questionable yung mga libro natin. Marami tayong mga libro na pagdating na sa variable overhead, meron pa rin siyang binigay na actual variable rate per unit, at saka the actual, okay, as well as the actual quantity. Ano? Guys, sa totoong buhay, wala yun. Okay, wala. So yung formula na binigay sa'yo sa libro mo, theoretical or hypothetical equation lang yun. Just to show you the general equation. So guys, eto yung tatandaan nyo, ha. So pagdating sa factory overhead, si variable component, total lang yan. Wala siyang breakdown. Unlike with materials and labor, may breakdown siya. This is actual. And this is what? What is actual quantity of input at standard price? This is the flexible budget. Ito na si flexible budget natin. And finally, what is this one? This is the standard. It will always boil down to actual minus the standard. Kaya ito, kitang-kita mo na, no? Kitang-kita mo na. That's actual price, standard price. Tapos ito na yung difference niya, actual quantity. In fact, inuna kong present sa inyo yung formula. Pero may origin tong formula na to. Susunod natin siya. So I'm giving you the bird's eye view muna. In terms of quantity, it's not obvious. It is actual quantity minus standard quantity multiplied with the standard price. Okay, ito na si quantity variance natin. And when combined, you just call it as the net variance. Okay? Start tayo sa madali muna. Okay, sa madali muna. Materials. Guys, do not memorize formula. Wag kayong nagme-memorize. Guys, tandaan mo to, ha. Tandaan mo to. Kasi itong general model na to, babalikan ka pagdating natin sa journal entries. At this point, already presented to you two approaches. Anong dalawang approach ng pag-compute ng variance? It is the total approach. That is actual minus the flexible budget. Okay, total approach yan. Tapos ito naman, flexible budget minus the standard. Total approach yan for the price and the physical. What is the per unit approach? Ang per unit approach is actual price minus standard price multiplied with actual quantity, and actual quantity minus standard quantity multiplied with the standard price. That's the per unit approach. Now, May origins yung mga yan. Yung mga formula na yan, hindi lang inimbento yan, hindi. May mga origins yan. And where we derive the variances. Guys, babalik lahat yan sa pinaka-basic natin. Kadalasan kung minsan, kinakalimutan natin ang mga journal entries natin. Guys, wag niyong kakalimutan ang journal entries. Sila ang mga susi na mga pinaka-complicated na problems. The most complicated problem, the solution is the basics lang. Wag niyong kakalimutan yon, guys. Ito yon. What is a journal entry to record the purchase of raw materials? Ito na, no? Guys, alam niyo, dati may binigay na question na ganito sa board exams. May binigay. Journal entries under production. Umangal. Umangal ang mga, may umangal against Board of Accountancy. Sabi, bakit naman kasi na itatanong nyo sa board exam? Sa dinami ng pwedeng itanong sa board exam, bakit journal entries yung tinatanong nyo? Okay? Alam nyo sagot ng Board of Accountancy? Di ba journal entries? Di ba basic lang yan? Sabi nila. So dapat alam ng mga estudyante nyo ang basics. Which is true. Okay, totoo yun. Guys, ito yung journal entry natin under standard costing. The journal entry to record the purchase of raw materials is debit to raw materials and credit to accounts payable. Okay, guys, para maintindihan mo to, i-simulate mo siya. Ito kasi, ito maganda pag actual experience, nakita mo kung ano yung actual na nangyayari. Pero pag wala, i-simulate mo na lang. Ang raw materials, guys, physical na matatanggap mo yung raw materials. It is always based on what? Always based on actual quantity. But since the company is using standard costing, anong price ang gagamitin mo? Mag-standard price ka. Okay? Kaya it is based on standard price at actual quantity. What is the valuation of accounts payable? Anong sabi ng mga magiting natin na teachers ng financial accounting? Ang sabi nila, liabilities are measured at the historical cost. Historical cost of the transaction. Simply stated, naka-actual yan. So ang credit mo, accounts payable at saka actual is based on actual. Accounts payable is based on actual price at actual quantity. In other words, that's actual cost. Guys, dito pa lang, nandyan na yung first approach mo. What is the first approach? Na tinulo ko sa'yo kanina, the total approach. This is in fact actual. This is in fact actual, yung accounts payable natin. And what is raw materials na dinebit mo? That is the flexible budget. Okay, flexible budget yan. It is a budget that is based on actual quantity but based on standard price. Okay? Journal entry pa lang pumasok na yung budget na yon. This is the first approach na tinuro ko sa'yo kanina. And what is the second approach na tinuro ko sa'yo kanina? The per unit approach, which is the nung nag-record ka ng materials price variance mo, which is now actual price minus standard price multiply with actual quantity. Guys, imagine yung journal entry mo, yung dalawang approach na kailangan mo sa variances, doon siya nanggaling. Originated from the journal entries. Okay? Kaya ito yung sinasabi ko, kahit kalimutan mo na yung mga equations mo, pero pag alam mo naman tong journal entry mo, alam mo rin kaagad yung variance mo. Nandiyan na yung dalawang approach mo. Now, next na concern natin. Guys, ito pala. Ang recognition ng price variance is always recognized at the point of purchase of the raw materials. Laging ganun yon. So, kuminsan kasi ang ginagawa natin is namumroblema kayo pagdating sa price. Sir, anong gagamitin ko sa price variance? Difference in price multiplied with actual quantity ba? Actual quantity used? Or difference in price multiplied with the actual quantity purchased? Guys, if the problem is silent, it is based on actual quantity purchased because the price variance is recognized at the point of purchase. Importante yun. That's a very important concept. It will eliminate yung mga doubts mo na ano na ulit multiply ko dito, nagme-memorize ka eh. Nagme-memorize ka ng basta price, okay, materials, multiply ko ng actual purchases, nagme-memorize ka. No, go back to the basics. Okay? Next na variance natin, issuance of raw materials to work in process. Pag nag-issue tayo, it's always a debit to work in process and a credit to raw materials. Guys, if the company is using standard costing, once pumasok sa work in process, puro standard na yan. Hanggang naging CGM na siya, hanggang naging cost of goods sold na siya. It is purely naka-standard na lahat yan. Hanggang cost of goods sold at the point of sale. Pag nagbenta ka na, debit to AR, credit to sales, debit to CGS, credit to finished goods. Puro standard hanggang sa finished goods na credit mo. Ang cost of goods sold mo, magiging actual na lang yan pag nag-closing entries ka na. Okay? Importante yun. Alam nyo kung bakit? Maraming mga questions sa board exam. Tinatanong nila, how much is the cost of the company uses standard costing? And then the question is, how much is the cost of goods sold? Tapos isipin mo na, ano yung cost of goods sold to? At actual ba to or it's standard? Guys, if the company is using standard costing hanggang cost of goods sold yan, it is, if problem is silent, naka-standard pa rin yan. Magiging actual na lang yan after the closing entries na. Importante yon. Pag nag-issue tayo ng raw materials, debit ka ng work in process. Standard lahat yan, guys. Automatic to, ha? And credit ka ng raw materials. Again, guys, simulate mo lang. Ang raw materials, meron siyang physical movement. If there's physical movement, it is always based on what quantity? Naka-actual quantity lagi yan. Okay, sa actual quantity lagi. Kaya, again, if you notice, ano tong mga to? Ano yung dinebit mo? Ano yung credit mo? Guys, itong dinebit mo, work in process, that is in fact the standard. And what is raw materials? Na credit mo. This is again the flexible budget na naman yan. This is the total approach. Okay, that's a total approach. It is the flexible budget minus the standard will give rise to the quantity variance. And yung second approach natin na tinulong sa'yo kanina, okay, is the per unit approach. What is the per unit approach? Ito yon, actual quantity minus standard quantity multiply with the standard price. Okay? Guys, pag naintindihan mo si raw materials, pareho na ang kwento ni labor at saka si variable overhead. Yun na yung pinaka-concept natin. Yun lang yung titignan mo. Okay? So, tignan natin to. Simple example tayo. Okay, simple example. Apply natin. So maganda sana, may 30 seconds kasi na, meron tayong 30 seconds na interval eh. So when I discuss, dun sa live, may 30 seconds na interval. Maganda sana pag ano na to, simultaneous tayo para interactive tayo. Nagsasagot kayo sa akin habang nagdi-discuss ako sa inyo. The following data pertain to the first week of operations during the month of February. The materials, actual purchases, 1,500 at 380 per unit. Actual usage, 1,350 units. Standard usage, 1,020 at 4 pesos per unit. Mamaya natin titignan si labor. Concentrate muna tayo sa materials. Okay? So anyway, kadalasan guys, ang mahirap kunin dito is ito. Nawawala si standard. Bibigyan ka ng ratio. Okay? Bibigyan ka ng ratio. Example ng ratio, for every finished product, it will require 1.5 units of the raw materials. Yun, doon nagkakaroon ng mas challenging na situations. Tapos kadalasan guys, alam nyo to, itong purchases na yan, at least binigay ko na yung details, di ba? Pag kadalasan sa problem solving, total amount yan. Breakdown mo pa siya. So anyway, tignan natin saglit. Let's go back sa journal entries ninyo. Pagdating sa journal entries, debit ka lang ng raw materials. Ano sabi ko sa inyo kanina? It is based on actual price at actual quantity. And then credit ka ng, that is based on standard price, at actual quantity. And then credit ka ng accounts payable, which is based on actual price at actual quantity. This is the flexible budget, and this is the actual amount. The difference is what? The materials price variance. Ito na yan. Presented to you earlier. Ano sabi ko sa inyo kanina? If the variance is favorable, it should be on the debit side. On the credit side, I mean. Bakit? If you notice, pag kinompute natin to, 3.8 minus 4, that's negative 0.2. Negative 0.2 times 1,500 should give us negative 300. And negative 300 simply means mas actual, nakatipid tayo. Tama? Actual price is lower than the standard allowed. It's favorable. Pag favorable yan, ilalagay mo sa, ano sabi ko sa inyo kanina? ilalagay mo yan sa credit side. Why? Reason, because pagdating sa closing entries, ano it will be replaced with, this will be replaced with cost of goods sold. If cost of goods sold is credited, ano sabi natin kanina? CGS will decrease. If CGS will decrease, eventually what will happen? Cost of goods sold will decrease, gross profit and net income will increase. Ito na yun. Ito siya. Now, issuance of raw materials to work in process naman. Ano naman yung journal entry niya? Debit ka lang ng work in process. Okay? This based on what? Di ba standard na yan? Puro standard. Balikan natin. Okay? So, puro standard, di ba? Ayan, standard. And credit ka ng raw materials. Standard, based on what? Actual consumption. Guys, this is based on actual consumption, ha? Nag-recognize na tayo sa ng work in process. Ito na yan. And ito na yung, this is the standard. This is the flexible budget. That's the total approach. And then this is what? That's the per unit approach. The variance as computed is unfavorable. So if you get the difference between the two, it is positive 1,320. Pag nag-positive yan, actually is greater than the standard. Nasa debit side siya. Nasa debit side dahil pagdating na sa closing entry, what will happen? Ide-debit mo si cost of goods sold. Pag dinebit mo si cost of goods sold will increase. If CGS will increase, automatic, okay, net income and gross profit will likewise decrease. It should be unfavorable. And these are the alternate solutions, guys. So, ito na yun. Ito na si actual at flexible budget. Kung medyo ayaw mong mag-journal entry, which is correct naman, di ba? Siyempre naman guys, di ba kadalasan pag nasa board exam ka or nag-exam ka na, alam nga naman na gagawa ka pa ng journal entries mo. Direct calculator computations na lang yan. So these are the alternate solutions for the price variance. This is a total approach and this is the per unit approach naman. Okay? For the materials price. For the quantity variance, ito na si total approach natin, flexible budget minus the standard, and this is also the per unit approach. That's actual quantity minus standard quantity at actual price. Okay, so yun. So, medyo madali pa lang to, di ba? Madali pa to. Anyway, I'm laying down the foundations. Closing entry, guys, i-reverse mo lang. Okay, reverse mo lang siya. So, debit materials price and credit to materials quantity close to the cost of goods sold. Na qualitative analysis tayo. Di ba sabi natin kanina, variance analysis is intended for performance evaluation. So who is responsible for the variances? Guys, kadalasan, pagdating sa materials variances, pag materials price, obviously si purchasing manager. Pagdating naman sa materials quantity, obviously it is what? It is the production manager. That's the obvious reason. But pag nag-in-depth analysis ka, kapag nag-in-depth investigation ka, pinuntan mo ngayon si production. Bakit unfavorable yung variance ninyo? Production variance. Ang sagot niya, kasi naman yung binili ni purchasing, it's below standard. Babalik na kay purchasing. Tapos pumunta kay purchasing, yung variance mo unfavorable. Ano sabi ni purchasing? Kasi naman, si production manager natin, ang hina niya sa scheduling. Mahina sa scheduling tuloy. Lagi kaming nagra-rush na bumili ng raw materials. Kung ano lang available, yun ang binibili namin. Kahit substandard, basta lang matuloy yung production process. Babalik ulit yan kay production manager. Guys, in real world situations, hinahanap mo yun. Huwag mo silang pag-awayin. Okay? Huwag mo silang pag-awayin. Pagsabihan mo lang, mag-corrective actions ka lang. Okay? Pagdating sa materials variances. Guys, we will breeze through labor variance. So labor variance, I will introduce to you another approach. Aside from the journal entries, I will introduce to you the tabulated approach naman. Okay? So madadagdagan na naman yung skill mo dito. Pagdating sa journal entries, guys, ng direct labor, automatic yan. Dito na iba si direct labor. The trigger point of labor efficiency and labor rate variance is automatic upon application of labor to work in process. These are the journal entries. Debit ka ng work in process based on standards, and then labor rate, if it is unfavorable, pag favorable, syempre, nasa credit side, di ba? Pag labor rate naman, that's actual rate minus standard rate times actual hours, alam na natin yung origin na yan. Yung formula na yan galing sa origins ng origins ng materials variances earlier. Wages payable, okay, that's based on actual, ano? Actual rate at actual hours. And the labor efficiency, ano sabi sa kanina? Basta efficiency variance, it is always actual hours minus standard hours. It's always a comparison between actual hours and standard hours. Guys, tuloy natin. This is the illustration that was presented earlier. Concentrate tayo sa labor. So sa labor naman, nandito si actual hours, standard hours. Guys, given na. Siyempre, alam nyo naman sa problems natin, ito yung given, ibibigay sa total amount siya eh. Total payroll, 310 and 12.1. Bibigay sa inyo, the total payroll for the period is 310 times 12.1. Total payroll for the period is 3,751. Actual hours consumer, 310. Sa problem solving, ganun. Hindi ibibigay sa'yo lahat ng ganun na parang presenta sa sample natin. Siyempre, sample lang to, di ba? Kaya madali lang siya. Ganun din si standard hours, guys. Alam niyo si standard hours, at sample tong 340 na yan, hindi yan ibibigay pagdating sa problem solving. Bibigyan ka ng actual units produced and bibigyan ka ng ratio of labor hours to one finished goods. Tapos mag-multiply ka na para makompute mo si standard hours. So, ganun yun. It's not as easy na ibibigay lahat sa'yo. Siyempre, di ba? Pa ikaw naman yung gumagawa ng question. Ikaw yung nagbibigay ng question sa board exams. Siyempre, gusto mo challenging naman yung pinapagawa mo sa mga mag-e-exam. So, that's already given. Guys, given yon. Guys, if you notice, the journal entry simultaneous. Nakita na natin to kanina. Automatic yan, debit ka ng work in process, naka-standards lahat ka agad yan. And yung labor mo, okay, that's the wages payable, that's the actual labor cost for the period, automatic naka-actual na lahat yan. Ito, naka-actual lahat to. And you recognize the variances, the labor rate and the labor efficiency variance. Now, gaya ng sabi ko sa inyo kanina, bibigyan kita ng isang approach, pero mamaya yon. Okay, guys, eto muna. Reinforcement lang. So, sa labor rate, as presented earlier sa materials, meron tayong actual versus the flexible budget allowed. Okay, alam mo na yan. Malamang at this point, bihasa ka na. At this point, medyo boring na dating ko, ano? Kasi alam mo na to. And this is again the per unit approach. Actual rate minus standard rate at actual hours. Okay, bihasa ka na rin dito. So, dapat may close parenthesis doon. And alternate solution, efficiency. Flexible budget allowed, at saka standard payroll. Okay, so alam mo na rin to, bihasa ka na dito. And the per unit approach, this actual minus standard hours at actual rate, alam mo na yan, sigurado. And this is the tabulated approach. Guys, ang basic formula, guys, be careful ha, itong tabulated approach na to is best suited for labor. Warning in advance para hindi kayo masyadong ma-excite na, okay, pwede natin gamitin lahat kahit anong variance. No. Okay, may limitations sa approaches natin. Unahin ko muna yung logic ng approach. The basic formula of any variance is always actual minus standard. Laging ganyan. It's always actual minus standard. And how do you compute for total cost? Ang total cost is always rate. Rate pag labor, price naman pag materials, multiply mo lang yan is already the total amount. That's the basic formula of how to compute for total cost, assuming no fixed components. Multiply lang. Pag tinabulate mo yan, the difference between the rate multiplied with the actual hours is in fact the labor. That's a labor rate variance. Okay, labor rate variance mo na yan. The difference between labor hours, ito, multiply mo siya ng standard rate, automatic, is a labor efficiency variance naman. Sigurado na yan. Yung makakompute mo dito, once you multiply labor rate variance and once you get labor rate variance and labor efficiency, pag tinotal mo yan, guys, should be what? it should be this amount. Dapat pareho lang yan, mag-i-equal na. Okay? This is the sample. Ito yung kanina. This is the given information. Guys, ito yung given info natin, ano? I-substitute mo lang. Tapos guys, tandaan nyo yung na-compute natin na variance, ha? The labor rate is 31, unfavorable. Labor efficiency is 360, favorable. Pag tinabulate natin yan, guys, eto lang, ha? Ganyan kasimple. Okay, ganyan kasimple. The difference between the two, that's the 10 cents, multiplied with 310 is the labor rate variance of 31. This is unfavorable. For the difference in hours, ito naman, that's 30 times 12 will give us what? 360, that's negative. It is unfavorable. When combined, pag pinagsama natin yung dalawang yan, ito na siya. That's the 329. This is the actual payroll. This is the standard allowed for payroll. Actual minus standard is equal to the variance. That's a tabulated approach. Okay? Guys, warning. Ang tabulated approach, hindi siya pwedeng gamitin sa raw materials if the actual material purchases is different with the actual material consumption. Pag nagkaroon ng difference yun, you cannot use the tabulated approach. The tabulated approach can be used only for labor and the variable overhead efficiency lang. Sorry, variable overhead variances lang. Doon mo siya pwedeng gamitin. Be careful when using it for raw materials. Okay? So guys, pagdating naman sa variable overhead, ang papalitan mo ito lang. You will be using the same hours pa rin. Labor hours pa rin yan. Para pagdating na sa variable overhead, instead of using the labor rate, ang gagamitin mo is the variable overhead actual rate and the standard rate. Hypothetically. Okay? So that's a tabulated approach. Okay, let's continue. Guys, eto na yung closing entry mo. Debit ka na ng labor efficiency and then labor rate variance. Any difference is not close to the cost of goods sold. Guys, if you notice, ano tong net variance natin? Di ba it is favorable? If it is favorable, it is a deduction against CJS. Kaya pagdating sa closing entry, kitang-kita mo eh. CJS net favorable variance, it is on the credit side. CJS will decrease, gross profit and net income will increase. Okay? Now, okay, who is responsible for labor variances? Guys, patapos na tayo sa easy round. Okay, easy round pa lang to. Who is responsible for labor variances? Guys, ang sagot doon, yung labor rate, si human resource manager. Because it is the human resource manager that will set the compensation of our laborers. Okay, sila. Who is responsible for labor efficiency? Consumption of labor hours. That's the responsibility of the production manager. Pero again, pwede na naman sasabihin ni production manager, bakit kasi naging unfavorable yung efficiency natin? Alam niyo sagot ni production manager? Eh kasi naman, si human resource manager natin, mali. Yung hinahire niya na empleyado, mahina. Mahina na nga, hindi pa sila nag-undergo ng training. Ayun na. Okay? And because of that, unfavorable na yung mga variances mo. So that's how you analyze the labor variances. Guys, eto na. Okay, overhead variances. This is the meat of today's discussion. Kumbaga, eto na yung pinaka-importante sa discussion ko ngayong araw na to. It is the overhead variances. Kasi sigurado ko, pagdating sa materials at saka sa labor, wala kang problema doon. Malamang wala kang problema doon. Pero pagdating na sa overhead, doon na. Nalilito ka na. Okay, so back to basic muna tayo saglit. What are the journal entries for the overhead variances? Meron pa akong tanong sa inyo. Do we even recognize? Do we even record the variances? Gina-journalize ba natin yon? Guys, ang sagot, tignan nyo yung journal entry natin ha. This is the first journal entry to record. Related to factory overhead is magde-debit ka ng factory overhead and credit ka ng cash, accounts payable, or any appropriate account. This is to record the actual overhead incurred. Yan yung actual mo. Okay? Pagdating naman sa applied, pag in-apply mo ng overhead sa work in process, ano turo ng teacher mo dati ng cost accounting? Ang turo niya sa'yo, debit mo lang si work in process, credit ka lang na applied overhead. Okay? This is the applied, also known as the standard overhead. Yan yung standard mo. Guys, if you notice, may variances ba na lumabas sa journal entries na yan? Unlike with materials and labor earlier. Sa materials and labor pa lang, ni-recognize mo agad yung variances mo. Pero pagdating sa overhead, wala na. Wala na siyang ni-recognize sa variance. Which will now bring us to the answer. Do we record overhead variances in the books? Guys, ang sagot doon, it depends on company policy. Pag gusto ng management na i-recognize ang variances, i-recognize niya during when? Yun ang magandang tanong dito eh. Kailan nire-recognize ang overhead variances? Material sa labor, alam na alam natin, no? Nakita mo na siya. But the question is, when do we recognize overhead variances? Ang sagot doon, guys, it is only recognized in the closing entries. Malamang nung way back when you were in cost accounting, ano turo sa'yo ng teacher mo? How do we close the overhead variance? Guys, eto siya. It's a debit to applied overhead and a credit to factory overhead. Di ba? And yung difference, i-close mo lang sa, ano sabi ng teacher mo? I-close mo lang yung difference sa CGS. Tapos nagtataka na, dami naming kinocompute na variances ha. Bakit hindi ko na-recognize sa libro? Matter of company policy kasi yon. If you want to recognize the variance, i-recognize mo siya dito. Instead of directly sa CGS, i-recognize mo whether you're using two-way, three-way, or four-way analysis, i-recognize mo na siya dito. Then eventually, you close the variances to cost of goods sold. Okay? Kaya ito, our overhead variances recorded in the books, ang sagot doon guys, it depends. It depends on the prerogative of management. But for purposes of performance evaluation and for purposes of proper documentation, it must be recorded in the books. Kaya ganito yan guys. Pag ang libro, malamang siyempre you read in advance. Pag ang libro na nabasa mo ay libro ng cost accounting, wala siyang ibibigay sa'yo na closing entries at saka recognition ng overhead variances. Wala. Because ang cost accounting, ang concern lang niya is simply to record the journal entries related to the production lang. Ito lang yung i-recognize niya. Pero pag ang libro na binasa mo ay managerial accounting books, pagdating sa closing entries ng overhead, ipipresent niya sa'yo yung mga overhead journal entries. Nasa closing entries lahat yun. Okay? Guys, eto na siya. Okay guys, this is the general equation for overhead variances. Pag na-master mo itong slide na to, okay, tapos na ang mission in life ko para sa araw na to. Okay? Guys, eto lang yan. If you master this is four-way approach. Pag na-master mo ang four-way, master mo na rin ang three-way at saka two-way analysis. Let's go back to basic muna. It will always boil down to actual minus standard lagi. Hindi mawawala yon. Guys, wag niyong pagbabalik rin ha. Wag niyong pagbabalik rin na standard minus actual. No. That's a no-no pagdating sa variance analysis. Magkakamali ka na interpretation. I have observed teachers before. Okay, so considering the nature of my work, I observed teachers before. May nakita kong teacher, nagturo siya, baliktad niya. Standard minus actual, sabi niya. Okay? So, kinorek ko naman siya. Pero nung kami na lang yung, nung one-on-one na, one-on-one na usapan na lang namin. Huwag na huwag niyong pagbabalik rin. Magkakamali kayo. Sinasabi ko na. Okay? Guys, eto yon. It's always actual minus standard. Pag variable, nabanggit ko sa inyo ito kanina. Pag variable, it is always the flexible budget in between. The difference between actual variable and the flexible budget is the price factor or the variable spending. The difference between the flexible budget and the standard variable is the variable efficiency. Alam mo na yan. Na-master mo na yan sa materials, labor, at saka sa variable overhead. No? Ito na yan, no? Si variable overhead. Na-master mo na to, itong area na to. And the fixed component is this. This is the fixed component. Fixed overhead. Actual fixed versus standard fixed pa rin yan. Pero what is in between actual fixed and standard fixed? It is the budgeted fixed. The difference between the two is the fixed spending. And the difference between the two, ito na guys yung sinasabi ko sa kanina, the difference between a static budget and a flexible budget is always the volume variance. Because, ano ina-analyze natin dito? Ang ina-analyze natin dito guys is a deviation between budget hours and standard hours. This is actual hours against budget hours against standard hours. But bottom line is, actual hours minus standard hours pa rin yun. Yun ang kwento ni fixed overhead. Guys, ganito, bago ko iwan to, this is far-away analysis. Apat yan. 1, 2, yung dalawang variable at sa yung dalawang fixed. Guys, para kung gusto mong gawing three-way analysis yan, ano lang gagawin mo? Gamit tayo ng ibang kulay. Kung gusto mong gawing three-way analysis, pagsamahin mo tong dalawang spending. Pagsamahin mo yan, variable spending and fixed spending combined into one becomes three-way analysis. That is the spending variance, efficiency variance, and the volume variance. Three-way na siya. Okay? Gusto mo siyang gawing two-way analysis. Gamit tayo ng ibang kulay. Okay, eto violet naman. Guys, ang two-way analysis are the controllable variances. What are the controllable variances? Ito yung conceptual discussion niya. Can we control variable disbursements of cash? Guys, ito disbursement of cash yan, basta spending. Can you control variable disbursements of cash? The answer is yes. Why? Because for you to disburse money, it requires the approval of at least 1 or 2 persons inside the company. Controllable ang variable spending. Can we control fixed spending? Yes. Ano nga ba example ng mga to? Ano nga ba mga fixed expenses na binabayaran natin in cash? Yung rent expense mo, sweldo ng mga supervisors mo. Fixed spending lahat yan. Are those controllable? Yes, controllable din yan. It requires the approval of at least 1 or 2 or more persons in the company. Can you control variable efficiency? Yes. That's actual hours versus standard hours. Controllable yan ng production manager. Pag pinagsama mo guys, yung tatlong yan, that is known, okay, yung tatlong to, ano tawag natin dyan? That is the controllable variance. And what is volume? Itong volume variance natin guys is the volume variance of two-way analysis. In other words, yung tatlong to is the controllable variance and this is the volume variance. Two-way na yan. Three-way, anong gagawin mo pag three-way? It becomes the spending variance, efficiency variance, and the volume variance. Tatlo na yan. Simply stated, for you to master everything, masterin mo yung apat. Okay? Start ka sa apat, tapos pumunta ka na sa 3 at saka two-way analysis. Mas mabilis yon. Apply natin. Okay, apply natin. Guys, screenshot nyo to. Okay, screenshot nyo to. Lalo yung mga nasa cellphone, pag nasa computer kayo, print screen, tapos i-paste nyo sa Word. Para pag-present ko sa inyo ng solution in the next few pages, masusundan mo pa rin yung given data. Okay? I'll give you a few minutes or few seconds to have this screenshot or to print screen. So anyway, habang binabasa ko, gawin nyo yun ha. The normal capacity of Department C is 6,000 direct labor hours. Guys, kadalasan, dito pa lang nag-a-analyze na tayo. Okay, nag-a-analyze na tayo. So in this situation, what happens? The normal capacity of departments is 6,000 direct labor hours. What is 6,000 guys? Budget hours mo yan. So that's the budgeted hours. Analyze ka agad. At normal capacity, the standard overhead rate is 22. Guys, itong standard rate na yan, combined ng dalawa, the variable and the fixed. Based on 96,000 of budgeted fixed expenses, guys, what is 96,000? This is the budgeted fixed. Okay, budget fixed ka agad. And ano pa? The variable expense rate is 6 pesos per direct labor hour. Guys, dito pa lang, nagko-compute ka na. If 6 pesos is the variable rate, automatic, and 22 is the total standard rate, what should be your fixed rate? Guys, ang fixed rate mo, automatic 16 ka agad yan. Okay, 16 is our fixed rate. If you want to counter-check, kung tama nga yung na-compute natin na fixed rate na 16, ang gagawin mo lang guys, 96,000 budget fixed divided by 6,000 budget hours. 96 divided by 6,000 will still give you what? 16 pesos pa rin yun. Okay? During February, the department operated at 5,600 direct labor hours. Guys, automatic. What is 5,600 direct labor hours? Actual hours mo kaagad yan. With factory overhead of 33,750 variable, that is actual variable, and 96,250 fixed. Ano naman to? That is your actual fixed naman. The number of standard direct labor hours allowed for the production actually attained is 5,700. Guys, what is 5,700? That is the standard hours allowed. Okay? Ayon. Gamitan natin siya sa tabulated approach. Guys, ganyan lang adali. Unahin natin si variable overhead. Ito na yung sinasabi ko sa inyo. In reality, si variable overhead, ang ibibigay lang sa'yo is total amount lang. Kasi sa totoong buhay, wala siyang actual rate at saka actual hours. Because variable overhead is composed of multiple, meron siyang indirect materials, meron siyang indirect labor. Halo-halo yan. Okay, halo-halo siya. So ito to, 33,750 is already the given amount. Then you have the flexible budget. Ano yung flexible budget natin? 6 at 5,6, 33,600. Okay, given yun ha, na-compute natin to. 6 is already given to us. Ito yun. Okay, so screenshot, sana screenshot nyo ha. And that what is 5,600? 5,600 is the, that's the actual hours consumed. Ito. Standard. Ano naman si standard variable? Standard rate of 6 times 5,7. Nasaan si 5,7 given din? Ito rin siya. The standard labor hours allowed. Okay, so ito yun. Guys, ano yung difference mo? That's already the variable spending and the variable efficiency. Now, how about si fixed? Okay guys, ito naman si fixed. Actual fixed is already given to us. 96 to 50. Ano na sabi ko sa kanina? Sa gitna ni fixed, siya yung naiiba. Nandito si budget fixed. Si budget fixed in fact of 96 is already given to you. Ito yan, no? Di ba given? 96. Guys, yun ang mahirap sa variance analysis. Kung saan mo ikukunin yung isa substitute mo. Ito na siya si 96. Or kung gusto mo, kunyari hindi natin alam, 16, which is the fixed rate, multiply with the budget hours of 6,000. And the standard fix, ito pa rin si fixed rate at standard hours of 5,7 is given din si 5,700 na ito pa rin siya. Hindi yan nagbabago. And this is already what? The fixed spending and the volume or the capacity variance. Okay? That's a tabulated approach. Now, dun tayo sa alternate solution. Guys, malamang, way back, di pala way back. For those who are in the undergrad, malamang tinuruan ka ng teacher mo, okay, ng iba-ibang methods pa. So ito siya, no? Meron tayong variable overhead variances, direct computations, variable spending, actual variable overhead minus the flexible budget allowed. Okay, so ito na siya, no? Ayan, so minus, alam niyo yung ano na to? Minus, actual minus bash, di ba? Ayan, yun, later, lalabas yung mga yan pagdating natin sa three-way analysis. But anyway, pag sa formula approach, that is actual variable overhead minus flexible budget allowed. Hypothetical equation. Guys, this is a hypothetical equation. Kaya nang sabi ko sa inyo, talagang walang breakdown yan. Pininasan ko lang to para makita mo lang. Kaya siya naka-color blue kasi hypothetical. Actual rate minus standard rate at actual hours is still the price factor na kanina pa natin dinidiscuss sa materials at saka sa labor. In contrast, how about variable efficiency? Variable efficiency is always efficiency. That is flexible budget allowed minus the standard variable overhead. Di ba yun yung basic equation natin kanina? So, basta efficiency, it's actual hours minus standard hours multiplied with the standard variable overhead rate. Malamang when you were in the undergrad, tinuruan ka ng teacher mo, variable efficiency is computed as budget allowed at actual hours minus budget allowed at standard hours. Tapos doon, nagsimula ka ng mag-memorize. Nung natapos yung semester of memorizing, pagdating ng second semester, nakalimutan mo na yung variances mo. Okay, nakalimutan mo na siya. Guys, sa totoong buhay, it does not matter kung paano mo kinompute yung variance mo, whether it is good form or not good form or direct approach. Sa totoong buhay, ang hinahanap ng boss mo is the amount itself. Hindi niya itatanong sa how did you compute this amount? No. Okay? Itatanong sa how do you interpret this amount and what are the corrective actions that can be done for this amount. Pero minsan natutuwa ako sa mga questions ng undergrad or questions natin sa board. It's one of how it is computed, which is the procedural side. Dapat it is how it is interpreted and how it is used in decision making sana. Okay, so yun nakakatuwa ko minsan. Guys, this is the variable spending. Okay, as presented here. Ito, pag in-apply natin tong formula na to, that's actual variable minus the flexible budget allowed, that's still 150 as presented earlier. Ito pa rin siya, guys. Okay, yan pa rin yun. Yan pa rin yung 150 natin. Pag nag-formula approach ka, ito siya. Variable efficiency, it's actual hours of 5,600 minus standard hours of 5,700 times 6. Guys, eto rin yan. Okay, eto rin yan. Efficiency. That is 5,600 minus 5,700 times 6. Eto rin yan. 600 pa rin siya. Hindi yan magbabago. We also have what? Guys, eto yung good form approach na tinuro ng teacher natin. Baa minus bash. Guys, pansinin nyo to ha. Kung hindi kayo nagme-memorize, ina-analyze nyo to. This is variable efficiency. This is the variable component of BAA. Budget allowed at actual hours. What is actual hours? 5,600 minus bash. Bash is a variable component ng bash as variable at standard hours. Ito yun. Tapos, ang nakakatuwa sa good form, dadagdagan mo siya ng fixed. Guys, if you notice, yung in-add mo ng fixed, pareho lang yan. 96. Simply stated, ano gamit ng fixed component sa good form, sa actual minus bash? Ang gamit ng 96 na yan, wala. Pampagulo lang yan. Because you're analyzing efficiency. Bakit mo sasamahan ng fixed cost? Kaya kung minsan natutuwa ako sa good form, bakit mo haluan ng fixed? Di naman kailangan sa variance na yon. Di tanggalin mo na lang para mas simple yung analysis mo. Guys, simply stated, this will boil down to what? Efficiency will boil down to actual hours minus standard hours multiply with the standard variable rate. Okay? Back to basic na naman siya. Ito naman yung alternate equations ng fixed spending. Fixed overhead tayo. Actual fixed minus budget fixed. Or sa volume variance naman, that's budget fixed minus the standard fixed overhead. Guys, alam nyo itong mga to, galing lahat yan dito. Galing lahat yan dito. Ginagawa lang natin na good form. Okay, so pag naintindihan mo yung general equation na yan, yung general approach na yan, madali na lang. Practice na lang kailangan mo, sa totoo lang. And this one, okay, so ito naman si volume or capacity. Volume or capacity, budget minus standard fixed, or guys, ito yung direct approach. Ayan, guys, alternate solution to ha. Alternate solution to. Volume or capacity variance is computed as budget hours minus standard hours multiplied with the standard fixed rate. Dagdag kaalaman yan. Okay? Bihirang-bihira i-present yung mga approaches na yan. Pag good form naman, that's bash minus the standard, deduct the standard overhead. I-apply natin sa problem na sinolve natin kanina para makita nyo sa kung paano. Ito si fixed. This is given. This is the, ano na ulit to, okay, spending, actual fixed minus budget fixed will give us the 50, tama? Siya din yung na-compute natin sa tabulated approach kanina. How about si volume? Guys, ito si volume natin. Si volume variance, si budget fixed na 96, minus si standard fixed na 16.5. 16 times 5,700. Guys, ito rin yan. Kinopya lang natin dito. Okay, kinopya lang natin dyan. Sarin yun. Okay, sarin yun. Okay, ito rin yan. So, present lang natin sa formula approach. Or guys, ito na yung kanina. This is budget hours minus standard hours multiplied with the standard fixed rate. Ito siya. This is the direct approach. This is the fastest approach pagdating mo sa problem solving. Guys, I'm teaching you different methods. ang labanan sa board exam, mas marami yung alam mo kung ano yung applicable sa situation na yon, yung pinakamabilis na approach, yun na advantage mo. That's your training for the board exams. Or, guys, meron to, bash minus standard overhead. Pansinin nyo guys, brinake down ko to para makita mo yung ina-analyze mo sa bash minus standard overhead. Kaya sa bash, budget allowed at standard hours, kaya naka-standard hours siya. And what is 96? That's the fixed. And the standard overhead, guys, standard overhead, variable component ito. That's a variable component. This is a fixed component. Yung variable component mo, 6 at 5, 7. Guys, pansinin mo yung variable na yan sa good farm approach. Ang variable component niya pareho lang. Pareho lang ano, okay? It's the same thing. I'm sorry, nasa na yun. Ito, it's the same thing. Simply stated guys, ang volume variance is strictly fixed component lang. Dito ka natutuwa na naman sa good farm. Nag-analyze ka ng fixed variance. Part mo sinasamahan ng variable component. Nag-good farm ka. Pero sinamahan mo ng variable component. So ito siya. Guys, if you notice, pareho lang yan. Tanggalin mo na yan. So what is volume or capacity variance? What is 96? That is budget fixed. Budget fixed minus, ano ulit to? Minus standard fixed. Which will boil down to what? Which will boil down to yung pre-resign ko sa inyo kanina. Ito yan, 96 minus the standard fixed. Okay, so guys, halos patapos na to. Simply stated, masterin mo lang pagdating sa fixed, pagdating sa overhead variances, itong general equation lang na to. Guys, tanggalin ko saglit ha. Ayan. Ang masterin mo lang pagdating sa overhead variances is this bird's eye view approach. Pag naintindihan mo tong method na to, mastered mo na ang overhead variances mo. Okay? Pabalik tayo. Dito na tayo. So from this point, gawin mo siyang three-way. Anong sabi ko sa inyo kanina? Para maging three-way, pagsamahin mo yung dalawang spending. Tama? The variable spending and the fixed spending, pagsamahin mo lang. Or it is total actual overhead minus turo ng teacher natin ng cost accounting or managerial minus budget allowed at actual hours. Guys, halos lahat tayo. Okay? Even when I was in the undergrad, ganito din ang turo ng teacher ko sa akin. Lahat tayo dumaan sa good form, which is good. Tama lang naman. Kasi kung minsan yung problem na sinosolve natin na multiple choice, kailangan mong master pa rin yung good form approach niya. Pero pag in-depth analysis mo sila, maintindihan mo yung logic ng kino-compute mo. Efficiency, guys, ito si three-way, di ba? So spending, efficiency, at capacity. Yung efficiency na to at capacity na to is the same thing na na-compute natin kanina sa four-way. So si spending na yung naiiba. Ito siya, guys. This is the variable spending. And this is the fixed spending. O, di ba? Pinagsama mo lang, yan yung kinompute natin kanina. Ito rin yung kinompute natin kanina. Pinagsama mo lang. So, this is what? This is actual. That is actual. Actual overhead. This is the variable overhead. This is the fixed overhead. This is based on what? Since three-way analysis to, it is based on actual hours. Ito naman si budget pa rin, di ba? So pa rin yun, pinagsama lang natin. Okay, pinagsama mo lang. Anong pinagsama natin dyan, guys? Ito, let me show you. Ang pinagsama natin dyan, guys, ito. So wala yung breakdown, sorry. Ito. Para maging three-way, ang pagsamahin mo lang, guys, is ito. Actual at saka actual. Magkasama yan, dalawang yan. Para ma-compute mo ang budget allowed at actual hours, ang pagsamahin mo, si flexible budget na variable at saka si budget fixed. Pagsamahin mo yung dalawang yan, it becomes what? That is actual minus BAA. Siya na yun. Tapos efficiency and the capacity. That's three-way analysis. Ayun. At yan yung ginawa natin dito sa three-way na to. Balik natin ha. Okay. Three-way. Yan. Yan mismo yung ginawa natin sa spending variance na yan. Pinagsama natin yung dalawang variable. Ito si flexible budget ng variable overhead. Ito si static budget ng fixed overhead. Okay? Next. Efficiency, guys, walang nagbago. Pareho pa rin yan. Nothing new. Now, gawin natin siyang two-way analysis. Kasi anong sabi ko sa inyo kanina? Para maging two-way analysis, okay, let me discard Let me discard yung mga notations natin para makita nyo. Guys, para maging two-way analysis to, ano lang gagawin natin? Guys, eto lang yan. Nung sabi ko sa inyo kanina, para maging two-way analysis, pagsamahin mo si variable spending, pagsamahin natin si variable spending, fixed spending, variable efficiency will become the controllable variance. Solo ni volume variance. Okay? Doon tayo sa two-way. Guys, eto na si two-way analysis. Yan, no? Variable spending plus fixed spending plus variable efficiency. Or, that's total factor overhead minus bash. Guys, sa good farm, ganito sa good farm. Sa good farm, it started with, lalo na yung mga, eto, guys, this is two-way analysis ha. Let me teach you two-way analysis first using good farm. This is actual. This is budget allowed at standard hours, which is bash. And this is standard overhead. The difference between the two is known as the controllable variance. Yan si controllable. The difference between the two is known as the volume variance. Basic is always actual minus standard. Two-way analysis, in between, ilagay mo lang si budget allowed at standard hours. That's a good farm. Gusto mong gawing three-way yan, guys? Simple. Back to basic ka. Actual standard. And then nandito si budget allowed at standard. And then dito singitan mo siya ng budget allowed at actual. This is three-way analysis. Actual minus budget allowed at actual hours is the spending variance. Budget allowed minus budget allowed at actual hours minus budget allowed at standard hours. That's the efficiency variance. Budget allowed at standard hours minus standard overhead is the capacity variance. Guys, and a good farm approach. It started with two-way. It started with two-way and then with actual minus BS. And then nadagdagan lang siya ng budget allowed at actual hours. Two-way, three-way. And then, kung gusto mong maging four-way yan, guys, ano lang gagawin mo sa spending na to? Hatiin mo yan sa dalawa. Hatiin mo sa variable at saka sa fixed components niya. That's the good farm approach. Problema sa good farm, mahaba, mabusisi. Unlike with what I presented to you earlier, these are direct approaches. Okay? I hope natuto kayo dun sa direct approaches natin. And this is the two-way analysis. Pag in-apply na natin, so again, gaya ng kanina, no? I-total mo lang variable spending, fixed spending, and variable efficiency. Pagsamahin mo lang yung tatlong yun, eto na si two-way controllable variance. Or it is actual minus, it's actual minus bash. Will still give us 200. Guys, paano natin malalaman na tama yung sagot natin? Yung 200 na yun. Okay, so eto siya, no? Calculator. Variable spending is 150 positive minus 600. Tapos ano pa? Plus 250. Fixed spending will give us how much? That should be 200. Okay? Ito na si 200 natin. Two-way analysis, favorable of 200. Yan, no? Dali-dali. And finally, the volume or the capacity variance will remain the same at 4,800. So, si volume or capacity is always the same. Ang napapalitan lang yung tatlo. Na-split lang yan. Okay, na-split lang siya. Okay, so, tapos na tayo sa technical side. Who is responsible for overhead variances? Guys, yung sa spending, whether it is variable or fixed, is controllable by the treasurer and any of the production department, whether si production department manager or si human resource manager. Okay, so sila yon. Pagdating naman sa efficiency, production pa rin yan. Guys, ito tatandaan nyo. Ang efficiency ng labor at saka efficiency ng variable overhead are directly connected with each other. it is the same hours ang ginagamit natin. The variable efficiency is unfavorable. Automatic, si labor efficiency mo unfavorable na rin yan and vice versa. Sigurado yon. Ayun. Pinapalitan lang natin doon yung rate lang na minultiply mo. Wala nang iba. Okay, so guys, practice problems na tayo. So, mabilisan na to ha. Mabilisan na to. Eksakto, it's already 7 o'clock na rin. Pero anyway, sige. Practice problems. Tingnan natin. Maganda sa ano pag walang 30 minutes na lag sa ano na to, sa live session eh, no? Sa FB Live para interactive tayo. When the actual price paid on credit, anyway, let me discuss the concept na lang. Mabilis na lang to. When the actual price paid on credit for raw material exceeds the standard price, the journal entry would what? Guys, pag nagsasagot kayo naman problems na ganito, visualize the solution first before looking for the answer. So alam natin na actual price on credit exceeds. Automatic ano to, this is unfavorable. Pag unfavorable yung variance natin, it should be on the debit side. So pag nag-purchase ka ng raw materials, debit raw materials, credit accounts payable. What should be the correct answer? Debit raw materials. Since the variance is unfavorable, dapat nasa debit side siya. Do not make the common mistake of looking for the answer in the choices. Mako-confuse ka lalo. Visualize the correct answer and then look for the correct answer in the given choices. Another one, ito naman si consumption. When the actual amount of raw materials used in production, guys, used na to ha, is less than the standard amount for actual output. This is a favorable efficiency. Pag favorable sa efficiency, dapat nasa credit side. What is the journal entry to record issuance of raw materials? Debit work in process, credit to raw materials. Yun. So tamang sagot. Debit ka ng work in process, credit to raw materials, and credit to the favorable materials quantity variance. Okay, next. When the actual amount of raw materials used in production is greater than the standard amount allowed for the actual output, guys, it is greater. So ano ibig sabihin nito? Ibig sabihin nito, it is unfavorable. Quantity, guys, ha? Quantity. If it is unfavorable, it should be on the debit side. Yun na yun, sagot. So, debit ka ng work in process, debit the unfavorable materials quantity, and credit to raw materials. Okay? Next situation naman to. Which of the following would produce a materials price variance? So guys, pag price, what are the factors that will affect the price? Ang sagot dito, this is somewhat indirect cost element of the price. Ang sagot guys is nandito. Shipping materials to the plant by air freight rather than by truck. Di ba freight is inventoriable? That's inventoriable component of raw materials. Pag inventoriable yon, air freight is much expensive than by land or by sea or by water. It creates the variance. Ang letter A, guys, the question kasi is materials price. A is more of the quantity. Labor is more of efficiency naman to. One naman si letter B, quantity variance naman to. So the correct answer was letter C. Next, a labor efficiency debit balance indicates that what? Debit side daw guys. Debit efficiency. Isa lang ibig sabihin nun, pag nasa debit side yung variance mo, unfavorable siya. Okay, unfavorable. If it is unfavorable efficiency, actual hours is greater than the standard hours allowed. Answer should be letter D. Ito na siya. The more labor time was spent on production that was called by the standard. Okay, next. Practice problem ulit when the actual wage rate paid. Guys, may clue kaagad tayo dito. Rate ang pinag-uusapan. Rate paid to labor workers exceed. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? Ibig sabihin nun, we have unfavorable labor rate variance. Pag unfavorable yung labor rate natin, saan mo siya makikita? Nasa debit side. Entry to record labor is debit to work in process, credit to wages payable. Tapos dapat, yun na siya. Nasa debit side sa labor rate variant. Answer, letter C. Guys, madali pa to. Madali pa yan kasi wala pang amounts to. Pag may amounts na yan, halo-halo na yung amounts na ibibigay sa atin. It becomes more challenging. When actual rate, guys, rate na naman to. Paid to direct labor workers is less than the standard wage rate. Guys, if it is less, it is favorable. If it is favorable, it should be on the credit side. And debit ka ulit ng work in process, credit ulit ng wages payable. Ito siya. Credit side C, labor rate variance. Next. Okay. Malapit na matapos ng theories natin. May problems din tayo. Ganda sana pag interactive tayo nun. When the actual labor hours exceed, guys, nag-exceed si labor hours. So labor hours efficiency yan, guys, automatic. It is unfavorable, automatic na sa debit side. Debit ng debit ka ng work in process, debit labor efficiency, and credit to wages payable. Letter C. Next, if overhead is applied on the basis of units of output, the variable overhead efficiency will be what? Guys, if it is applied based on units of output is the actual. So what is efficiency? Efficiency is actual minus standard. Pero since you adjusted your standard based on actual, what will happen to the efficiency variance? Automatic zero na yan. Because the actual is not adjusted, standard is not adjusted to the actual quantity levels. Zero. Next, production volume variance occurs when using what? Guys, eto na yung reason kanina kung bakit inintroduce ko sa inyo ang difference ng absorption versus variable costing. Because it's only under variable costing na nagkakaroon ng variances. Production volume variance occurs when using absorption costing. And because of what? Answer is, be careful guys with letter A. Be careful with A. Letter A is wrong. What is wrong with letter A? Guys, that is only for inventoriable cost elements. Okay, doon lang sa difference ng variable and absorption cost in terms of what is inventoriable and what is not inventoriable. Pero pagdating sa variances, iba yung kwento. Ito siya, because the allocation base, volume variance is a deviation from the budget hours against the standard allowed based on the actual hours, based on the actual production. So ito siya, it's the allocation base. Okay, next, variable overhead is applied on the basis of standard labor hours, which is true. Okay, talagang ganon. Pero kung minsan kasi, pwede rin natin gamitin si machine hours. If for given period, the direct labor efficiency variance is unfavorable, the variable overhead efficiency variance will be what? Guys, nabanggit ko sa inyo ito kanina. Both variable efficiency and labor efficiency uses the same labor hours. If labor efficiency is unfavorable, automatic. What will happen to variable overhead efficiency? It is also unfavorable din siya. Okay? Letter B. Answer, letter B. Next, problem solving tayo. Information on Kenny Corporation's direct material costs is as follows. Guys, dito na papasok yung skills nyo ng algebra. So pag ginamitan mo to ng algebra, dito na rin papasok yung symbols ng negative at saka positive. If it is favorable, negative yung variance. Yan yung reason kung bakit sinabi ko sa inyo, huwag mong pagbabalik ta rin ang actual minus standard kasi magkakamali ka na. Ito yon pagdating sa constructive problems. Okay? So simply stated, pag favorable, negative. Unfavorable, positive. And then go back to the basic formula and then apply your skills in algebra. Okay, so doon na mathematics lang to guys. Information on direct materials costs as follows. What was the actual purchase price per unit rounded to the nearest centavo? Guys, ang gagawin mo lang, sisimulan mo lang dito. Negative 240 is equal to the actual price which is missing. Actual price which is missing minus standard price which is given to you at 3.6. Multiply this with what? With the actual with the actual consumption of 1.6. Pag simplify mo yan guys using algebraic approaches, the correct answer should be 3.45. Okay, 3.45. So guys, pwede nyo yung screenshot yan. Okay, screenshot nyo lang kung gusto nyo pag-aralan, pag-practice nyo, sige lang, okay lang. Total, this is what? This is a public naman tong discussion natin. Another one, Boots Company manufactures desks with vinyl tops. The usage variance, guys, ito tinatanong niya. That's the quantity variance. The standard material cost for vinyl of S-desk is 27. based on 12 square feet of vanilla at the cost of 2.25. Guys, 2.25 is the standard allowed. Yan kagad yung kailangan mo kasi quantity ang tinatanong sa'yo. A production run of 1,000 desks in March resulted in usage of 12,600. What is 12,600? That's the actual quantity at the cost of 2 per square. Okay? Oh, sorry. Tama. Okay, so vinyls at the cost of 2 per square foot, a total of 25,200. The usage variance resulting from the above production run was how much? Okay, so guys, ito na yung sinasabi ko sa inyo na ratio ang bibigay sa'yo. Actual number of units produced versus the standard allowed, 12 square feet. Paano mo-compute mo si standard quantity? 12 times 1,000 will give us 12,000. 12,600 minus 12,000 is 600. 600 times 2.25 will give us 1,350. Answer, 1,350. Next, another one. Your company's labor cost for the month of January were as follows. Ay, bigyan ka ng total payroll. Ito yung sinasabi ko, no? Total payroll tsaka actual hours. Pag dinivide mo yan, guys, may actual rate ka na. What was Tiger's labor efficiency? Meron naman tayo actual hours. May standard hours din naman tayo, pero nawawala si standard rate. So what do you do? Reconstruct the standard rate first. Guys, eto siya. If it is unfavorable, so positive. Positive 3,000 is equal to the actual rate. Actual rate is 125 divided by 20. Okay, so nasa calculator ko. 126 divided by 20. That's 6.3. Okay? So nandito si 6.3 minus ito na si standard rate na missing. And then multiply mo na siya ng standard hours na 21,000. Compute for your standard, for the standard rate. Guys, pag na-compute mo si standard rate, that should be 6.15. Okay, 6.15 dapat si standard rate natin. Pag napalabas mo yan, madali na i-compute sa efficiency variance. O, yun na. Answer should be 6,150 favorable. Next. Okay, what were the actual hours work rounded to the nearest hour? Again, labor, no? So nag-warm up na naman tayo sa problems. So guys, to reconstruct this, saan natin kukunin? Dito lang yan, labor usage variance. So meron tayong labor usage variance unfavorable of 4,200. So anong gagawin mo ron? 4,200 is equal to, positive yan guys ha, is equal to actual hours which is missing. Yan si actual hours minus standard hours which is given to you. Lagay mo na doon. And then i-multiply mo siya ng standard rate of 3.75. And then simplify the value of actual hours. Pagka-simplify mo to, okay, pag sinimplify mo na siya, like answer should be 11,120. Okay? Next. Okay, standard rate at saka actual direct labor rate, puro constructive. Guys, alam nyo itong mga binigay ko sa inyo, okay, mga samples na to, halos lahat yan ng actual board exam questions. This is a compilation of actual board exam questions para may idea kayo. Pero wag kayong mag-memorize. Kunin nyo yung concept niya. Okay, yung concept at saka yung approach. Goodman Company's direct labor costs which are presented below. What is standard direct labor rate? Guys, para mag-compute natin si standard direct labor rate, idadaan natin sa ano ba, given, di ba? Given tong dalawan to. O, so, idadaan natin sa labor usage. Guys, this is one way of making the problems more difficult. Instead, sanang gagamitin natin is labor efficiency, yung term na gagamitin, ilalagay niya labor usage. But that is in fact efficiency. So, unfavorable, so negative, is equal to what? O, ito na siya. Substitute mo na to, actual rate minus standard rate, multiply with the missing na standard hours. So this is obvious, ano? 29 at saka 30, that's 1,000. 4 divided by 1,000 will give us 4. Ito dapat yan, that should be 4. And then what is your actual rate? Guys, actual rate is total payroll divided by actual hours lang. Divide mo lang yan. Makukomplete mo na yung tamang sagot. That should be 4 at saka 3.8. Okay? Next. Okay, overhead na tayo. The following info is available from Tyrone Company. I'll teach you the approach. Assuming Tyrone uses three-way analysis of overhead variances, what is the spending? Guys, ang spending ng three-way, pag nag-good farm approach ka, is actual minus ba? Pero pwede ba natin i-compute ang pwede ba natin i-compute ang variable spending at saka fixed spending? Guys, pwede yan. Nandito na si fixed spending mo. Actual fixed minus budget fixed is 200, di ba guys? That's 200. And then can we compute for variable spending? Guys, napakadali compute sa variable spending. Nandito na si actual hours tsaka sa standard rate. So pag multiply natin to, actual hours of 3.5 times 2.4, okay, 3.5 times 2.5, 2.5. 8,750. Okay, 8,750. If your actual fix is 15, actual overhead is 15, and actual fix is 7,200. Ibig sabihin nun, this is 7,800. 7,800 is your actual. That's the actual variable. May na-compute tayo 8,750. If you get the difference, okay, yan yung nasa compute natin, ano? Ayun, 950, guys. That's 950, but that is not yet the answer. So, may 950 tayo. And this is favorable, di ba? So, pag pinag-combine mo yan, magkano to? Ayan. So, pag pinag-combine natin yan, answer is 750 favorable. Or, syempre, pwede rin naman, actual minus ba? How do you compute for ba? Yun ang compute natin kanina na 8,750 plus the budget of 7,000. Will give us a total of how much? Total of 15,750. So pag pinag-combine natin to, lalabas 750. So guys, multiple approaches yun ha. Multiple approach. In fact, guys, pwede ko pa itanong sa inyo dito. Pwede ko itanong sa'yo, compute for the efficiency. If the question is efficiency variance, what would be the answer? Guys, ang calculator computation lang ng efficiency mo ay actual hours, 3.5 minus standard hours of 3.8 negative 300 times standard variable of 2.5. That is already the efficiency variance. Okay? That's the efficiency. Ganun lang kadali yun. Next. Information of over companies. Guys, ang present ko dito sa inyo, present ko sa problem na yan, ang fixed efficiency, fixed spending, variable spending, as well as the efficiency variance using the problem of Tyrone Company. Next, dito tayo. Guys, ito yung sinasabi ko. Actual board, pero ang approach ang dapat na master mo, good form. What is the total overhead variance? Guys, ang dali-dali lang pag total overhead. It's simply actual minus standard. Automatic ang sagot dyan, 6,000. Pero pag tinanong three-way spending. Guys, pag three-way spending, 86 minus ba? Minus 83 will give us 3,000 unfavorable. What if tinanong ka efficiency? Pag efficiency, guys, that is ba minus bash, which is 2,000, which is 1,000 favorable. If the question is volume, pag volume naman, that is bash minus standard naman, which is 4,000 naman unfavorable. Okay, so guys, dapat master pa rin natin si good form. Binigay ko sa'yo kanina yung direct approach yung logic ng good form. And yung proper sequencing niya, tinulong ko sa'yo kanina. Pwede rin tanong sa'yo guys, pag tinanong two-way controllable. What is two-way controllable? Actual minus. That's actual minus bash. That's 86 minus 84 or that's 2,000. So dapat alam pa rin natin si good form approach. Ang sagot dyan, since the question is only net overhead lang, net overhead is simply actual minus standard lang, which is 6,000 unfavorable. Okay? Next. Guys, ito mga gandang problem, di ba? Challenging. May the variable efficiency. Guys, alam niyo pag efficiency lang yan, dali-dali. Okay? Calculator lang yan. In fact, hindi na kina-calculator to, tinitignan na lang. So, magkano efficiency? What is efficiency? Actual hours minus standard hours. Meron ka na actual hours. Can you compute for standard hours? Yes. Ito na siya. So, magkano standard hours natin? 2,000 hours. 2,1 minus 2,000 times 3. Standard variable rate will give us how much? 300. Okay, that's 300. Unfavorable. Pandali. Okay? That's the efficiency variance. Direct approach ang ginagamit natin doon. Pag tinanong ita, complete for D, variable spending. Anong gagawin mo pag variable spending? Guys, direct approach lang. What is variable spending? It's in front of your eyes. Ito na, actual times, standard variable rate, this will give us what? 6,300. Okay, that's 6,300. So if the question is variable spending, 6,500 minus 60 will give us 200 unfavorable. If it is variable spending. Pag efficiency, it is 300 unfavorable. Pag efficiency. Ang dali ano? Pag master mo yung direct approach. Okay, let's continue. Using the information presented below, calculate the total overhead spending variance. Okay. Guys, ang spending variance, gaya ulit, ito, total overhead spending. Siniwalay, nakahiwalay si actual fixed at saka si actual variable. Guys, ito na yung fixed mo. Nandyan na. It's already 300. That's already 300. That's already the fixed spending. Ano lang nawawala? Si variable spending na lang. What's variable spending? Ito na siya guys, oh. That's 2 pesos allowed per hour. And we also have what? Actual hours of 9,500. Guys, multiply mo lang yan. Multiply mo to. Kano lumabas? 19,000. Okay, that's 19K. Oh, 19,000. 19,500 minus 19,000 is equal to 500. That's already the variable spending. Get the total bit of the two. Give us how much? 800 unfavorable. Yun na yung sagot doon. Di ba dali? Okay. Di dali mag-compute. Ayan. Basta master nyo yung direct approaches natin. Guys, pag wala yung kaklase nyo, itinuturo ko sa inyo ha. Turo nyo sa kanila kung paano. Ganun lang kadali yun. Next. Information on overhead cost for January production is as follows. If a standard absorption and flexible budgeting system and uses two variance method for overhead variances, compute for the volume. Guys, volume variance. Dalawang approach ka agad yan. What is volume? Budget fix minus standard fix. Guys, nandyan na. Ito na si fixed mo, 3. Magkano si standard hours? 24. So magkano total nito? 3 times 24 is 72. Tama ba? 72. Yes, 72. 75 minus 72, sagot, 3,000. Yun na yun. Okay, ganun kadali guys. Ganun lang kadali yun. Huwag mo na idaan sa good form. Yan yung sinasabi ko na sa every problem na isa-solve mo, sa dinami na approach na alam mo, you know the fastest approach. Alam mo kaagad anong gagamitin mo to solve or to attack the problem. Guys, sa board exam, ang kalaban natin doon is oras. Kaya dapat mabilis ka. Mabilis ka mag-compute. The more you know how to compute, the better. Yun ang labanan doon. Next, alam na natin, ano na yan, na-present ko na yung sagot. Next, okay, malapit na matapos to. Yan, company is the standard cost accounting. Following overhead cost production data are available. Applied overhead lang, guys. Ang dali-dali nang tinatanong niya, applied overhead lang. Pero syempre, gagawin natin mas complicated, di ba? Pag applied overhead lang, guys, eto lang yan. Applied overhead is the standard overhead. Meron ka ng 5 pesos. Times standard hours of 39. Guys, yun na yung sagot. Times 39 is 195. At, tulong ito ng direct approach. Tinanong tayo, pag tinanong efficiency, what do you do? Guys, pag efficiency, as simple as what? Efficiency as simple as actual hours minus standard hours. That's 500. Multiply with the variable rate of 4. O, 500 times 4, magkano yun? 2,000 unfavorable is the efficiency variance. Next, pag tinanong volume variance. Guys, ang volume variance is budget hours minus standard, ito, budget hours of 40 minus standard hours of 39. That's 1,000. Multiply with the fixed rate of 1 peso will give us 1,000 unfavorable. That's the budget variance. Dali yun, no? Dali-dali. Okay? Meron pa isang tanong. Pag tinanong ita, magkano actual overhead? Is it possible to compute for actual overhead? Yes, based on given data. Di ba na-compute natin si applied? Applied is the standard of 195. Binigyan tayo ng overhead, favorable, 2,000 net. So magkano dapat si actual? Actual should be lower. Tama? So magkano dapat si actual? 193,000 dapat si actual overhead. Okay? Yun siya. Guys, marami pang pwedeng itanong dito. I can even ask you compute for the spending variance. Kasi na-compute na natin si actual, di ba? So actual minus ba, pwede nang itanong sa inyo yun. So marami pa, pero you have to move on. Okay? So yun na yung sagot. Okay guys, final thoughts na tayo. What I presented to you today, this afternoon until tonight na, overtime na tayo, pero okay lang yun, importante is matuto kayo. Guys, ang dami kong present na approach sa inyo. I presented to you the concepts behind. I presented to you the logic behind. Bakit ganun yung formula mo? Saan nanggaling yung formula mo? At saan mo siya gagamitin? Ano yung analysis na ginagamit natin doon? Present ko rin sa iba-ibang methods, iba-ibang approaches. Take it to your advantage. Gamitin mo siya. Okay, gamitin mo sa undergrad, pagdating mo sa board exam, pagdating mo siya sa trabaho. Tapos, do not keep it to yourself. I-share mo rin sa mga kaibigan mo. Okay, yung mga approaches na present ko sa inyo. Para pagdating nyo sa board exam, mas maraming pumapasa sa inyo sa board exam, mas maganda. Mas buhay ang accounting profession natin. Okay? So guys, I hope okay, sa discussion natin ngayong hapon at sa ngayong gabi na, sana natuto kayo, sana nadagdagan man lang yung kaalaman ninyo. Okay? So, that yun ang pinakahangarin namin para matulungan namin kayo in your future career as a certified public accountants. Okay, so guys, tuloy lang yung laban, okay? Tuloy lang yung laban, yung mga undergrad sa inyo. Always do your best sa mga studies ninyo. Ang solution sa board exam is doing your best while you're still in the undergrad. Dapat na ma-master mo na lahat yon. For those already reviewing for the board exam, okay, for the board exam, guys, we know na medyo challenging ang board ngayon because of the uncertainties. Huwag kayong magsawa. Take advantage of the time na meron sa inyo. Nung kami ang nag-board exam, gahol na gahol kami sa oras, naghahabol kami sa oras. Ngayon naman, sobra-sobra naman. So, take advantage of doing constant practices. Mag-solve lang tayo na mag-solve, understand the concept, understand the approach, determine the best approach. Guys, pati nga sa kadalasan, alam nyo sa financial accounting, ganun din yung sinasabi ko sa financial accounting, kadalasan is maganda sana if naintindihan din ng mga estudyante natin bakit ganun yung treatment, bakit ganito ang preferred treatment, bakit ganito yung alternative treatment. Maganda rin sana para hindi kayo nagme-memorize ng mga treatments. Okay? So guys, that's already it for today. As always, please keep safe and healthy everyone. I hope to see you again in the future in our next FB Live sessions. Again, thank you and good night for today. Signing off.